gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Glad to see everybody here in the live audience.
Nick Anderson is muted.
Just the way we like him.
For good reason.
That's good, isn't it? Yeah, you know, you're taking over from Miami Rick there, Nick. No, I'm not going to mention the fact that you sound all weak and feeble on your audio.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yep.
Weak and feeble.
I was going to say that, but I won't now, so that everyone gets upset.
Yeah, it's a good thing you won't say that, because that could be hurtful. Could hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
And we never hurt each other's feelings.
No. Shut up.
Jeff doesn't care.
Yeah, neither does.
Jingles doesn't care.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone in the chat room.
Oh, excuse me.
Dr. Steph is going to join us. She's swamped at work, but she assures us she'll be with us at some point.
Yeah, she's
We need
got
a
alligators up to her
dedication from
backside.
her.
Well,
I'm swamped at work, and I was like, you know what the best solution to this problem is? Just leave it all behind.
like your
There
attitude. I was not swamped at work today, just to let you know.
Good.
But
Very
not.
glad to hear that.
I was swamped with
wasn't-
doing all
I
these
wasn't-
slides. Work.
Yeah. I wasn't swamped down the bowling green.
Yeah, you
You were
won.
victorious. Yeah.
Yes,
Victorious.
yes. A grand victory.
Yeah, I was a little bummed. I was looking for a humble brag GIF, and I couldn't find an easily accessible humble brag GIF for that because I noticed that you kind of just slipped that right in there. A little unnecessary piece of information. You could have just said,
absolutely,
I'm running right on time," but instead you had to preface it with the, no big deal. Won my match.
I'm
Right
going to
on
be
time.
home
That
really
was
early.
just for Liz. She likes to keep tabs on me.
I do. I like to know how you're doing.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
But it wasn't a highfalutin match. It was the over 65s singles.
Oh, hi, Micah. How you doing today? Hope things
Oh,
are
I
the
couldn't
old
even
farts.
compete in that.
Yeah.
Micah had a little surgery yesterday, so he's recovering.
Oh, who's that?
Micah,
Oh, well,
little back,
Micah, I hope you're.
back procedure.
Oh, I hope you're. Oh, really? Okay. Sorry, I hadn't been keeping up with that.
I think
Sorry,
he
Micah.
consulted with Dr. Steph on this, I believe. And
Okay.
Man, you know, when I get behind in the BFFs chat thing, I feel like, oh, I'm gonna put it aside and read it at the end of the day, and then I get so far behind.
Never
I'm like,
happens.
Exactly.
Jeff, do you want to
Just
check
start
on
back at the
Roger's levels for the intro? Do you want to do that?
All right. Hey, Roger. Roger, let's check your levels.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
All right. Cue Radio Roger. Stand by. 3, 2, 1. You're on, Roger.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 554.
All right. How's that sounding?
Sounds good
That's
to
good.
me.
All right.
Nick's still a
I'm
bit
just gonna,
Sounds
I'm just
good.
thick and weeble.
gonna
Yeah. Well, you're really weak and feeble when you don't have your microphone.
I'm hitting the red on my little Motu thing.
Well, let's see. What's your setting in? Oh, somebody's
In
calling me.
Skype.
I don't touch that. I don't touch that anymore because I got in trouble for that.
Okay.
Automatically adjust mic volume is what is currently checked.
Okay, that should compensate for anything. I think you're sounding better than you did.
You
Okay,
are.
Say something
Absolutely.
Say something else.
else. Okay. We can hear you. Okay.
I can get this up a little bit higher. Also,
I answered. Are you hearing me? I do. Yeah. Hang on. Are you talking to me through Skype? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. And you probably hear me both places. Okay. And so now I'm going to mute myself in Skype, and I can hear you fine in Skype. Thank you. Very good. Very good.
Okie dokie. Hi, Bill in
Alrighty.
Snowy Ottawa.
is that better, Micah? Micah said I need to unplug something, so I unplugged something.
What did you unplug?
Oh, Poppy.
Pacemaker.
I unplugged the mic and plugged it back in, but I didn't know if I needed to do that or unplug the Motu.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah, it does. There is a little bit of a
Yeah,
kind of a
crackling.
electric vibration, kind of like sizzling.
Yes, sizzling's good.
Probably. So you're plugging the mic into the Motu.
mm-hmm.
So maybe unplug the Motu and wait for 5 seconds and replug it in.
Okay.
By the way, I'm not hearing that, so I don't quite.
I did
work
hear
out how you guys can hear
Yeah,
it.
it's
and
kind
I
of a
can't. But then I'm a
metallic-
bit deaf.
Yeah.
Tinny
I
kind
thought
of sound.
sizzling was a good.
Dun, dun, dun.
I-
Yeah,
I'm
the
not
sizzler and the
I'm not
vibration.
hearing the vibration thing that you're talking about, Micah. Really bad vibration. I'm not hearing that.
It's like a high frequency vibration. Probably hear that. There we go.
Hang on, you're muted.
Yeah, you're still muted.
Here we go.
Oh, back.
Oop.
The host has unmuted your mic. What?
Oh, Liz must have done that.
I did
Uh-oh.
that.
Am I
Sorry.
on the wrong. Hold on.
No, you're okay.
Do I sound better now? Yes, kind of.
Yeah.
Keep
I think
talking. Just keep talking.
I'll talk about Tim Van Ram's comment here. He must be
Yes.
referring to when the Chiefs vanquished the 49ers in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, just like they're going to do this year. I can only assume that's what he's referring to.
Wah, 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 wah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear any sizzling there when you were talking. Did you, Jeff?
Nope.
No. I think it may have been fixed.
Yeah, I think that did the trick.
Okay.
Nice, easy fix. Let's hope that was. Hi, Marin.
Yep.
Main Marin. We've got Main Man Micah and Main Marin.
And just to let you know, Nixie, I edited your mic settings and took you off automatically adjust mic volume and used the mic volume slider.
Okay.
And I'm up at 149 right now for you. So we may need to adjust that as we do the show. Because I think I've done this before, and then all of a sudden you were like really loud.
I feel like
"Whoa,
I did that a
let's go."
couple of times ago, and then you said it was
Yeah.
a bunch of work afterwards.
Yeah, but it's for some reason, it's just like when we get it set to begin with, and then
Oh, it's fine.
and then all of a sudden, like later in the show, it just goes all out of whack. Yeah.
Neil's asking a question there, Jeff.
Okay, Neil, Jeff's been fixed. It probably wouldn't make any difference. It'd be a wasted procedure,
I'm
if you know what I mean.
not going to say anything. Not going to say anything. Not going to say anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we getting ready to roll here?
We're getting ready. We're getting
ready.
ready. All right.
Yeah,
Let
I'm
me get this over here and here. And let me put this, pin this little window over here to control my input switch and my muting and unmuting on Skype, the back channel. And let's see, what else do I need to do? And we checked the sound, and it sounded okay. And let me get my cheat sheet. And I think, oh, wait, let's start our recorders.
Oh, yeah, it's very good.
Oh, I'm going to make a quick biological break before we start.
Okay.
Let's see how close his bathroom is.
It's pretty close.
Oh, yeah,
I've
you've
been-
been there, haven't you?
I've
Yeah.
been there, yeah. Let's see.
Oh, I got to ask Nick when he comes back. I read a really sad article today about a guy who was out hunting in Wichita.
Oh, Nick. Wow, he should have turned his mic off. I'm sorry, go ahead.
A guy from Wichita that was out hunting, and his dog was in the back seat with his loaded gun, and the dog jumped on the gun and killed him. He was sitting in the front seat, and the dog jumped on the gun, and
The dog just had it. Okay, that's enough.
it's pretty sad. I mean, why would you
I'm
leave
sorry.
a loaded gun sitting on the seat?
Well, that's not smart.
No.
And without a safety, obviously, unless the dog knows how to undo the safety
Nick
mechanism.
Camacho,
Yes.
do you know this story? This guy from Wichita whose dog shot him with his own gun? Did you hear that story?
He thinks it's funny too. You're muted.
Oh, it's muted. Hang on.
Yes, I am aware of that story.
Anyway, yeah. Okay. Let's go.
That's dog justice right there. Okay. I'm recording. I'm singing.
In the rain.
No, that's Elf. He's in the department store. I'm singing. It's easy. Okay. Radio Roger, you ready? Ready. Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG, it's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy episode 554.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. With your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from Studio 1A at APG headquarters in Roswell, Georgia. Today's show is recorded on the 26th of January, 2023.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. It's your light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, the FAA fines Virgin Atlantic $1 million for flying over Iraqi airspace without U.S. permission. 2 people die when a small airplane develops engine trouble and goes down within 2 miles of a New York suburban airport. More news and your feedback, so get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions, electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger. Flight 554 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He is an award-winning TV and radio reporter currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins in
New York City.
That's also on 92.3 FM in
New York City.
Let's not forget that. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a pilot at a major legacy airline based in Atlanta, Georgia. And joining us from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
professional photographer, former RAF RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff, and just thank the intro there for bringing up Virgin's fine. I'm very happy I'm not working for them anymore.
Okay. Well, I understand that. Fine company.
Fine company.
Yeah, it's nice not working.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah, it would have been taken out of my pay packet, actually.
oh, okay. Must be some insider information or something. From his home studio in the air capital, low and slow pilot, old airplane enthusiast, and engineer in the aerospace and defense industry, Nick Camacho.
Hey, glad to be back.
Great to have you back. And also joining us in a place to stand, a place to grow, from her studio in Toronto, retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer, it's Liz Piper.
Good day, everyone.
Good day. Glad to see everybody. Oh, by the way, we should mention that Dr. Steph will be joining us as the show is in progress. So drive safely, Dr. Steph.
Have a good show, guys.
I'll hear you in the control room, Liz. And let's go on to the news.
Stand by for news.
All right, let's start off with an update on that ATR 72 crash in Pokhara, Nepal. It's not much of an update. They've just recovered all but one of the bodies. 71 bodies have so far been recovered from the crash site, and one person is still missing. And the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, the orange boxes, thank you, Liz, have been handed to the investigation commission that's being supported by foreign investigators, the BEA, the ATR, and EASA, who traveled to Pokhara this Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, which was several days ago. And that's it. No, we don't have any information yet as to what happened here, any clues as to why the aircraft crashed. Unless one of you have heard something about this.
No.
I have not.
No.
Okay. All right. That's it. Nice and quick on that one. Move to item B. Here's an update on this as well. The accident, the Envoy Embraer ERJ 175, operating on behalf of American Airlines in Montgomery. They were flying from Montgomery to Dallas Fort Worth. They were preparing for departure when a baggage handler was killed. Now, wait a minute. I thought we decided they were coming in, and they had the APU. Yeah, okay. That little bit of information from the Aviation Herald was at the beginning of this accident. I think they have actually kind of turned that around as far as the sequence of events. But speaking of that, the preliminary report has been released. That was released just a couple of days ago on the 23rd of January. Let's see, the flight was operated by Envoy, and they had an inoperative auxiliary power unit. The flight crew reported that after an uneventful flight, they elected to leave both engines running for the required 2-minute engine cool down period. As the airplane approached the gate, 3 ramp agents were present but clear of the safety area. After stopping the aircraft and setting the parking brake, the captain gave the hand signal to connect the airplane to ground power. As he was shutting down the number 2 engine, the right engine, the door cargo forward open, engine indicating and crew alerting system, ICAS message appeared, indicating that the forward cargo door had opened. Remember, both engines are still running here. The first officer opened his cockpit window to inform the ramp agent that the engines were still operating. The captain then made a brief announcement asking the passengers to remain seated until the seatbelt sign had been turned off. He then relayed his intentions to the FO that the seatbelt sign would stay illuminated until they had connected to ground power and could shut down the number 1 engine. Immediately thereafter, he saw a warning light illuminate, and the airplane shook violently, followed by the immediate automatic shutdown of the number 1 engine. Unsure of what had happened, he extinguished the emergency lights and shut off both batteries before leaving the flight deck to investigate. Video surveillance captured the accident sequence, showed the airplane being marshaled to the gate. After the nose wheel was chalked, the ramp agent marshaling the airplane walked toward the forward cargo door located on the right side and near the front of the plane. Simultaneously, another ramp agent appeared walking towards the back of the airplane with an orange safety cone, where she disappeared from view. A third agent, located near the right wingtip, could be seen gesturing with his hand towards the back of the airplane. Meanwhile, a fourth ramp agent knelt near the airplane's nose wheel. The ramp agent from the back of the airplane reappeared and began walking away from the airplane and towards the wingtip, where she disappeared from the camera's field of view. The marshaller could be seen backing away from the airplane's open forward cargo door, and the ramp agent from the back of the airplane reappeared walking along the left edge of the left wing and directly in front of the number 1 engine. She was subsequently pulled off her feet and into the operating engine. Throughout the course of the accident, the airplane's upper rotating beacon light appeared to be eliminated. The ground crew reported that a safety briefing was held about 10 minutes before the airplane arrived at the gate. A second safety huddle was held shortly before the airplane arrived at the gate to reiterate that the engines would remain running until ground power was connected. It was also discussed that the airplane should not be approached and the diamond of safety cones should not be set until the engines were off, spooled down, and the airplane's rotating beacon light had been extinguished by the flight crew. One ramp agent located near the right wingtip stated that he observed another ramp agent approach the back of the airplane to set the rear safety cone. He observed her almost fall over from the engine's exhaust while he attempted to alert her to stay back and wait for the engines to be shut down. He also stated that he observed the airplane's upper and lower rotating beacon lights illuminated. Another ramp agent stated that after chalking the nose wheel of the airplane, he observed another ramp agent approach the forward cargo door and he knelt to wave him off. He then observed another ramp agent about to set the safety cone at the rear of the plane. He yelled and waved her off as the number one engine was still running. He observed her as she began to move away from the airplane before he turned to lower the cord for the ground power. Shortly thereafter, he heard a bang and the engine shut down. So, I mean, they did all the things they were supposed to do. They had the safety briefing, 10 minutes before the airplane arrived. And then right before the airplane arrived at the gate, they said again, don't do any of these things that you normally do because the engines are running. The APU is inoperative on this airplane. But it seemed to be completely forgotten or ignored. The rotating beacon was still going, which means that, don't approach the airplane with that rotating beacon on. I don't, it's just, it's perplexing to me that with all that, all these agents were doing things that weren't supposed to do. They were just told not to do that and they did it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that everyone was within earshot during the briefings. Was everybody at these little briefings, or was somebody, off doing something else and didn't get a chance to participate? The person conducted the briefing, did they do a little check of understanding to ensure that the information had been taken on board? People, it's a very noisy environment. People often wearing ear defenders. You would have to make absolutely certain that everyone is hearing and acknowledging the safety brief. Having said that, you can only do so much. If someone's going to ignore your instructions, what can you possibly do? So, I think there's a bit more of an investigation still required to find out the fine details of why this person either wasn't able to understand the safety brief or ignored it. Because this is not particularly common. I mean, you do hear about passengers in helicopters walking into the tail rotor, this sort of thing, and it is dreadful. But you can possibly understand that. But these are people who should be reasonably familiar with the ramp area and all the dangers involved. It's their everyday job, so difficult.
Now, I did receive some feedback from someone who asked me to anonymize all the information. And it has a lot to do, it's very similar experience that he had to this incident. He said, as an aside, I used to work for blank in a Wisconsin city for several years on the ramp, both as just a regular ramp employee hourly and then as a supervisor doing the load planning, etc. We were, for the lack of a better word, anal about training people of the dangers of the aircraft engines. It was doubly tricky because while I was there, we ran DC-8 71s and 73s. So we had to go through the whole huffer, start, no APUs. I can remember a night, I was maybe 25 yards from the aircraft, sort of by the nose of the plane, just watching my folks do their thing. We had a set of chocks under the mains that were stuck, and the mechanics had a procedure for that. They'd position an employee by the mains, and then once they got the first engine started, they'd release the brakes and then have a tug, push back, or pull forward just a tad so the employee could then pull the chock and head up under the fuselage, avoiding the engines and out of the way so that we could then push back. We worked with the mechanics so that there were 5 to 6 employees specifically trained to do this, to know where the danger areas were, and so on. Well, anyway, this particular night I'm watching, and the guy by the mains was having trouble because there were 2 sets of chocks jammed. They were coming out, but it was just a bit of a hassle. A non-trained employee saw this and decided to head in and help, walking right in front of the inboard starboard side engine as it's throttling up right after start. I mean, from my perspective, he was maybe 10 feet in front of the engine, maybe a bit closer. It was close enough that his flannel shirt, which was untucked, was being pulled towards the engine. I firmly believe that if the captain had come up on the power just a bit more, he'd have gone in. The whole time I'm waving my arms, jumping up and down, screaming, and he doesn't see or hear me. Anyway, he walked over, helped the guy get the chocks out. They came out under the fuselage, and at that point, I remember seeing the mechanic getting up from his knees because I was screaming at him to stop, and so was the mechanic, but it was so loud. This mechanic, who was a really great guy, was so shaken by what he had seen that he literally dropped to his knees as he was screaming for this kid to stop. So anyway, he gets to the nose, and the mechanic was so upset he grabbed the kid, threw him in his pickup truck, and yelled, "Don't blanking leave this blanking truck," and closed the door. We both talked to him after the plane departed. He had no idea how close he had come to being ingested. I distinctly remember seeing the mechanic just shaking the whole time that we were talking to this kid. Another almost,
Wow.
sucked into the engine event.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, and I witnessed a similar one myself when we had our Hawk jet trainers, single engine jet trainers, up at a forward operating base to do some flying because the weather around there was good, and I was up in the tower as the duty pilot, and as the aircraft accelerated prior to a formation takeoff, they powered their engines up. An apparent leak appeared on one of the aircraft, and a fire crew were asked to come out and do an inspection. So, you think an airport fire crew would, really understand where to stand and where not to stand. Anyway, one of them lost his arm down the intake of one of the aircraft. Luckily, the engine set fair way back, so he managed to pull the engine surged, so the flow of air was interrupted, such that he could get his arm back out again. But and that's a trained fireman, so you go, wow, if he can fall foul of it, then wow, you do wonder.
And it's such a noisy environment. I mean, all the screaming you can do is probably not going to be heard over the sound of those jet engines when you're on the ramp. It's just a very dangerous place. Even when I'm doing my walk-arounds, I'm very cognizant of what's happening around me, and just making sure that I don't, like, for instance, when the what do they call those, the cargo, I can't think of the name, where they put the baggage carts.
Oh, the trolleys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're usually like, several connected in almost like a train to the tug. And I always am tempted to like walk in between them on my way back to the tail of the aircraft. And I'm thinking, nope, I'm going to go and walk around either the back one or the front one, and make sure that nobody's sitting in the driver's seat and about to drive that thing away. And just those little things that you just have to really take some extra time and safety precautions. And that's why we have to now wear these fluorescent vests when we do our walkarounds. That's something that was initiated a couple of years ago by, I think it was initiated by the Atlanta International Airport. And then our company decided that we should always wear these bright yellow, green safety vests when we're outside doing our walk around, just to make us a little bit more visible to all the stuff that's happening out there. But it's a very dangerous place.
Yep.
Yeah. I think one of the disheartening things about the Envoy situation is that, they weren't asking, it wasn't, the abnormality was that they were pulling all the way to the gate with the engines running, right? But they weren't actually asking the ground crew to do anything different or anything outside of their normal, their standard operating procedures, right? Like they said, still can't go up to the airplane with the engines running, still can't go up to the airplane with the beacon on. I mean, it seems like to me it'd be different if something was happening where they're like, hey, we got to go do this thing that we don't normally do. We got to go open this door with that engine running, and we need to brief it and we need to understand what's going on because it's an abnormal operation. But, the sad part is everything was already documented, and they were just saying, we're going to do everything the way we always do, which is wait for the engines to shut down, wait for the beacon to turn off, and it didn't end up working out that way.
I guess in a lot of cases, the normal ops with the APU running, they only have one engine running, so they're kind of used to one side of the aircraft being safe, and they're probably so into the routine of getting everything done as quickly as possible, get that airplane turned around and back to wherever it needs to go, that they just completely went into their normal mode of operation, and that had its cost, very high cost.
Yep.
Okay. We just got some information from the control room that Dr. Steph has finished her work duties and has left the building and is headed home. So we look forward to seeing her arrive in the next, I don't know, half hour, hopefully, depending on how busy the traffic is today on Thursday afternoon. Probably pretty busy. All right, let's move on to this next one. This is from Forbes.com. A first officer on American JFK runway incursion flight had added task at departure, source says. Okay. Yeah, I'll let you know, Liz. The first officer on American Airlines Flight 106, which was involved in a runway incursion Friday night at Kennedy International Airport, was flying her first flight with new cockpit procedures, a source said. At the time of the incursion, which forced a Delta Airlines aircraft to stop suddenly, the first officer was engaged in a series of tasks that involved processing takeoff data that included flap and power settings as well as a runway assessment. But for the first time under new procedures introduced January 2nd, she also had to make an announcement informing passengers and flight attendants of the impending takeoff, said the source, a pilot who has knowledge of the incident and who asked not to be named. The procedures require the 777 first officer to inform passengers and flight attendants that takeoff is imminent. That announcement was previously made by the captain. It requires the first officer to interrupt continuing tasks, be precise on timing, and change intercom settings. The first officer, an experienced 737 pilot, was making her first 777 flight after 100 hours of training flights that did not include the new procedures. She has all this data to analyze and input, plus she has a new task on top of all that, the source said. She was overwhelmed. In the incident, Flight 106 crossed a runway about 1,000 feet in front of a Delta Airlines flight. Well, that's where they ended up stopping their rejected takeoff. Delta Airlines Flight 1943, which had to abort. The Delta plane returned to the gate. The American plane, its pilots unaware of the close call, continued to London. No one was injured. Air traffic control communications indicate that the Flight 106 was on the wrong runway at the time. Well, they crossed the wrong runway. Many have questioned why the American crew did not return to the gate after the incursion. According to this article, the reason is, or the source, the reason is that they had no knowledge of the seriousness of the incident. After the incident occurred, controllers gave the pilots a number to call. They called, but it's unclear whether they got through. Okay. The crew didn't understand the gravity of what had occurred until they got to London. That's when they realized what happened. Until then, they didn't know that there had been a runway incursion. I'm going to wave my little BS flag. Although the first officer was experienced in the Boeing 737, she was brand new in that airplane. She had just read the 35-page bulletin that changes procedures. The captain, meanwhile, had to make a left turn and then a right turn to cross the wrong runway. Thank you, Liz. That's perfect timing. And so did not have sufficient visibility to see the stop bar lights on the runway. The captain was, in fact, on his way to another runway. A third pilot in the cockpit also could not see the lights. At the time of the incident, the pilots had just switched to the tower frequency from the American ground tower. That's not true. They had just switched to tower frequency from JFK ground. They never heard Delta cleared for takeoff, the source said. Now, that's a good point. Delta was cleared for takeoff before they switched over to tower. And I do believe that that's a legitimate point. And you all know my feelings about the fact that anytime active runways are involved, I think that all the flights need to be on the same frequency. So you can pick up when somebody's been cleared for takeoff on a runway you're about to cross. Now, whether they realized what runway they were crossing at the time. I don't know. That is to be determined in the future, I think, in the investigation. Anyway, so this article continues on. On January 2nd, American Airlines implemented new cockpit procedures, including changes to cockpit communications during critical events, including takeoff. The Allied Pilots Association, APA, which represents the 15,000 American pilots, said the implementation involves an attempt to alter critical procedures through a 35-page bulletin and changes in a 65-page manual rather than through in-person training. Anyway, so they kind of go on and on and on about this. But, okay, the problem, this is Jeff speaking. The problem here wasn't, that might have been maybe something that contributed to the lack of attention, maybe because the first officer in the new procedures wasn't paying as close attention as she normally would, and she's brand new on the airplane, yada, yada, yada. It's still the captain's responsibility to steer the airplane, taxi the airplane to the right place and know which runway he's going to. And, I don't see how any of this Allied Pilot Association, I think that the source for this article for Forbes is representative of the APA. The APA and American Airlines have been fighting over the implementation of these new policies. And I think that they're just trying to use this possibly as a way to, or ammunition to, speak out against the fact that, they don't like the way it was implemented or whatever. But yeah, why don't you go ahead and put up that tweet, Liz? So this is a tweet from Ross Feinstein, who is actually retweeting a tweet from somebody else, Gary Leff. He says, I agree with Gary Leff here. I think we all know the person who is feeding Forbes and the guy that wrote the article with the CYA, Cover Your Assets story. The Ted Reed Pieces CYA, he said, there is zero indication that new procedures had anything to do with this incident. There were 3 777 pilots on board. None of them noticed that they were going the wrong way. They were informed of a possible pilot deviation. They spent half an hour on the ground after the incursion. If they still didn't know what had happened, that's worse, not better. As you write, quote, now, of course, this doesn't address why the experienced captain taxied the plane to the wrong runway, and that makes the rest of Ted's, the Forbes writer, piece basically irrelevant. APA is pushing everybody's fault, but the pilot's narrative via Ted and elsewhere, but it does not hold. No, that's just another opinion there. It seems like there's a fight going on between American management and the union, and which, again, I mean, probably some valid points on both sides, but personally speaking, if I'm in that airplane that had a runway excursion or incursion, my first officer is busy doing stuff. I mean, it's up to me. I'm the one that's actually taxiing the airplane to make sure that I'm going the right place. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, you brought up some very interesting thoughts, Jeff, and I agree almost entirely with you. I would say that, not in defense of the situation, but it is very common nowadays for airlines to change procedures, change the way sometimes long understood procedures have been operated, and the only training you get often is a written memo which you're supposed to read, in this case a 35-page document or 30-page document, which you're supposed to read in your own time during your rest periods between flights or on a layover or whatever. And I can, I've been guilty of this myself, going, golly, I've got a day off now and I'm supposed to sit down and try and absorb this entirely new procedure without ever getting a chance to practice it in the simulator or whatever. So I have an element of sympathy with the modern way of training flight crew through, what effectively are memorandum that are fired off the company, and they often come thick and fast. But let's put that to bed. I don't think that was necessarily the cause or even a contributing cause here. I think you've hit the nail on the head. When you're in charge of a damn great big aeroplane, you have to make sure you know where you're going. You certainly shouldn't miss your turn off onto the correct taxiway to cross a completely different runway. I think that's inexcusable. If your FO is getting swamped because she's unfamiliar and she's applying new procedures, you taxi real slow and you get the guy in the back there who's got very little else to do just to sit and watch to monitor and shotgun them through these new procedures. You brief them beforehand, say, do it together, guys, so that we make sure we don't miss anything. After all, you've got nothing to do. And you're the one that's being swamped, so, work as a team here to make sure you get everything done. It's not a very long taxi out, that bit, although they had plenty of time before, quite honestly. But when you get to where they were, when the incursion occurred, it's not that far to go to get to the end of the runway. But having said that, making a PA just imminently before departure wasn't going to happen for another 5 minutes, probably, even if they'd gone the right direction, because they've still got, several thousand feet of taxiway to go before they get to the point where they call everyone to go and take their seats. So I think you're right. I think there is an element of this was bad timing because a new procedure had been brought in, but I think the union are probably waving a flag there saying this was the cause, and I don't think that's probably justified.
Yeah, I agree with you. And IL and the live audience makes the point from listening to live ATC, and we mentioned this last week when we were talking. Was it last week that we talked about this? Well, a week and a half ago. It's been a while. He says, from listening to live ATC, there is no readback of receiving the runway instruction. So when they first called for taxi from Tango Alpha, the instruction was taxi runway 4 left via left on Bravo, hold short of Kilo. And when she read it back, she did not read back 4 left on Bravo, short of Kilo. So I think that was like kind of the seed from where this all started, was the fact that it wasn't either heard or understood right at the beginning that that's the runway that they're going to use for takeoff. And this whole time she's doing all her performance calculations and everything else. I don't know, because we weren't there. We don't have the cockpit voice recorder because they flew to London, and after a couple of hours all that is recorded over. So sadly that's gone. But I would bet that all the performance data and everything else, all the discussions about the takeoff runway, they were using 3-1 left instead of 4 left. And so you have that, what is it, expectation bias going on. Yep. That's the runway we're going to use, and that's where we're going. And they just told us to cross a runway. I could see all those Funyuns lining up.
Yeah. Air traffic are supposed to pick you up if you don't give particularly a runway crossing instruction, if you don't read it back correctly.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. This is reaching way back into like the back parts of my pilot instruction, but I thought for, at least in the United States, I thought for hold short instructions, you had to read back the hold short instruction and what you were holding short of.
Yeah.
Read back all runway, hold short, and something instructions.
Yeah, and I hate to say it's a habit among people who consider themselves professional airline pilots that it's okay to abbreviate stuff. Mm-hmm. And they think it's overly pedantic to be particular about making sure that you have done all the correct RT procedures, which include a full readback when required. And air traffic controllers are guilty of the same sort of thing. When you're busy, you give people a bit of leeway because you haven't got the time to pull them up if they don't give a full readback. That is really a bad habit, and I hate to say it, and I hate to sound like a I don't know, broken record on this, but it is a really bad habit, and people need to get out of that habit and
I know.
do it properly, because it can save so many situations.
Yes. Now, to be technically correct, the initial instruction when given the runway assignment, Nixie, was the taxi instruction, and they did not tell them to hold short of a runway on that instruction. They said 4 left, turn left, Bravo, hold short at Kilo. So it was a taxiway intersection that they were told to hold short. And technically speaking, you don't have to repeat everything verbatim. I always do. And I think most pilots, professional pilots out there do. But I don't think it's an actual requirement. But if they had said 4 left, turn left on Bravo, hold short of runway 4 left at Kilo or something like that, then they would have been required to read all that back, including their full call sign. But because that was their initial instruction from ground control, it was not a hold short or crossing instruction. It was a runway assignment.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that.
Okay.
But I thought they had the crossing assignment because they were crossing a runway. They were just crossing the wrong runway.
Yes. They told them to cross 4 left cross 3-1 left at Kilo, but I'm not sure. I don't remember if she read that back or not. I guess we still have the recording. Should I pull that out and see?
Yeah. I don't think it's not a huge deal to me. I'm curious.
I just think
now.
it's one more element in this where they might have picked up the error.
Right. Oh, Dave has a comment, and Liz is thinking maybe you want to comment on that, Captain Nick.
Yeah, I mentioned this last week. That particular corner is a very confusing area. It's full of concrete, so it may on the map look like it's clearly designated roadways, taxiways with something like grass or whatever in between, but it's not. It's almost all solid concrete, and the only thing that delineates where you taxi are the painted lines, and particularly at night, and particularly in wet weather, not necessarily this situation, they can be very hard to read. And also the mess of lights merges. It's not like it's a clear dotted line to follow. It merges into a sort of conglomeration of lights as well. So, it's hard to pick out the way. I was initially worried that they just went a bit too far and then took a 90 right and assumed they were actually crossing the correct runway, because you've only got to go a little bit past Kilo and get a beam Juliet, and now you've got a right turn that is very similar to the one you should have taken when you came down and turned right at Kilo. It's just that now you've got confused by 90 degrees. But I think there's a strong likelihood that Jeff's right, that they were imagining they were departing from 3-1 left, and they just turned onto the wrong taxiway and crossed the wrong runway.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. I think it was just in their head that that's where they were supposed to go,
yep.
And that's the runway they were supposed to cross.
Yeah.
So regardless of the lights and geographic spatial awareness and all that kind of stuff, I think that was the critical problem with this whole thing. Okay, I found the audio. Let me. I'll have to fast forward to the place where. Oh, wait a minute. Now it's got to download. Hang on. Sorry.
Yeah, I found it.
Shouldn't take very long.
Yeah, Main Man Mike has asked a good question while you're doing that, Jeff. Yes, you're supposed to. That's the whole point of the command course and being selected for command, is because you're supposed to have the capacity to be able to monitor what everyone on the airplane's doing, even if it's cabin crew down the back. And so, yes, you are supposed to be able to pay attention. You may not be monitoring them 100%, but at least you might have set up the situation where they're being monitored, and you might keep a close eye on them if they're new on the airplane. And hence I come back to the taxi out nice and slow, and make sure you have given them the time to complete their tasks before you get to the end of the runway.
Yeah, especially in like critical phases where there, to me, there are like obvious phases of the flight that are higher risk. And crossing runways is always one of those. Like I have way less experience than you guys, but like the C-47, which is my only multi-crew experience, there's lots of times when we'll be taxiing out or doing long taxis, and one guy will be controlling the airplane and the other guy will be doing a bunch of stuff. But there are phases, and when we're crossing runways, it's always one of them, right? Where we're both looking out the windows and we're looking down the runway and we're backing each other up. And I think that's because we just, there's a, I don't know, at least in my mind, there's this innate feeling that that's a point where if you make a mistake, it could be really catastrophic. If I've got my head down trying to set a radio or something and this other guy's screwing around and puts one main off of the taxiway, that'd be embarrassing. But, and it may break something on the airplane, but it's not going to be catastrophic. But when you start talking about rolling a big, heavy, slow airplane out onto an area where things are happening very fast, then I think everyone needs to know what's going on.
Yeah. Bill in our live audience has a good question. What was the other captain doing? And actually, I think it's another first officer. What was the other pilot that was riding in the jump seat? Part of that crew. What were they doing? What were they paying attention to? Were they on their, well, I'm not going to say that. Okay. Let's see. I did find, again, I'm going to play it a different way.
Grand American. We're going to go back to a gate.
Okay.
Taxi right on Bravo, hold short of Hotel Bravo. Right on Bravo.
No, that was after the event. Sorry. I'm trying to find it.
Delta 1943, say intentions.
Nope, that's already happened. Back a little bit more.
35018, Gus 24, runway 4 left, clear for takeoff.
Clear for takeoff, runway 4 left. Over.
Okay, well, that was the Delta flight. Okay, let me back up a little bit more. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. So she read back, cross through. Here, let me do that again.
Be cross runway 31 left at Kilo.
Yep. So she did read back the proper instruction. It's just that maybe she was so busy doing what she was doing, she didn't catch what the captain was doing. And again, that question, well, what was the other pilot doing? Why wasn't he paying attention to what runway the captain was about to cross? I don't know. Lots of things went wrong there.
I was going to ask Captain Nick about that because you talked about having cruise captains when you were flying long legs. What was the was there any sort of rule of thumb where if you're flying a 2-crew airplane, but you have a third pilot in the cockpit with you, was there any expectation of him being involved, or is he kind of expected to be like a jump seater?
Oh no, there are a set of duties allocated to supernumerary pilots in the ops manual, which include monitoring the conduct of the flight, ensuring that the operating crew are doing everything they're supposed to. So there's no way that they're sat back there without any duties. No, it's clearly laid down that they are part of the crew, and even though they haven't got anything specific to do, they've got a very important monitoring job, which is what most of them do. And but I think people get a bit blasé about that sort of thing. They think, I've got nothing to do, I'll just sit here, thumbing bum minded neutral. Not suggesting that was the case here, but it does happen, and that's often how they also manage to miss things.
What was that? Thumb and bun?
Thumbing bum minded neutral.
Excuse me.
He sent Captain Jeff off into a
I love that. I'm all choked up now. Cover art. What does it say?
Fair enough.
Oh boy, let's write that down, someone. Okay. Next item. Delta 76300, registration November 181 Delta November, performing flight 211 from Prague to New York JFK with 221 passengers and 12 crew, was en route about 240 nautical miles southeast of the southern tip of Greenland when the flight crew was informed about a flooding issue in the mid-cabin lavatories. shortly followed by flooding in the forward left lavatory. Sometime after the flooding was discovered, the autopilot disconnected. The flight crew attempted to engage any of the 3 autopilots, however, none would remain connected. The aircraft began to drift to the right, and correction to the left was not possible. The flight crew contacted dispatch and maintenance, reporting jammed flight controls, and worked the related checklists. The crew declared an emergency, descended the aircraft, and coordinated with air traffic control for a diversion to Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. I always put the emphasis on the
Wrong
understand.
syllable.
Newfoundland. Okay. So let me start over on that one. The crew declared emergency, descended the aircraft, and coordinated with air traffic control for a diversion to Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. About 100 nautical miles east of Gander, the flight controls returned to normal function. The crew terminated the emergency and set course to divert to Boston, Massachusetts. Subsequently, while at flight level 110, actually, in this case, it would be 11,000 feet, determined, I guess it would still be, or would it only be 11,000 feet when you got into the American airspace? That's a good question. I'm not sure I know the answer. Anyway, approximately 11,000 feet, determined that the fuel would be sufficient to continue to JFK. The aircraft landed on JFK's runway 4 right about 4 hours and 15 minutes after the onset of the flooding. The Canadian TSB reported maintenance replaced both gray water drain masks and a seal in the left wheel well canted pressure deck above the aileron field centering and trim mechanism. The entire roll control and autopilot systems were inspected and repairs effected as needed. Okay, I guess that was at the aftermath. They replaced the water drain masks and the seal in the left wheel well. Oh no. Okay. We have another story here from what's it called again? Paddle Your Own Canoe. And you'd think that this guy would know better. They have a picture of a Delta wide body. However, it's not a 767. It's an Airbus. Oh man.
Dear, dear.
Yep. That never
Boeing
happens.
lobby are responsible for this.
So yeah, that's concerning. So they're reporting flooding, and then all of a sudden you can't get the autopilots are disconnecting. You can't engage an autopilot and leave it connected, and then all of a sudden you can't turn left. That's not good.
No, I wish I knew a bit more about the 767's autopilot system, because it sounds like the autopilot wasn't fully disconnecting. I don't know what you think, Jeff, but
I don't know. It could be, yeah. The lateral part of it may have still been engaged.
It might have been fighting to do something that it still thought it was its job. And perhaps when they solved that, they went, okay, we know what happened now, so let's go to New York. Fair enough. But it's not what this article says.
No. And that's certainly not what I would say.
No, because if I was still unsure of why this airplane had a sudden control, and sounds like quite a serious control malfunction, I just want to get that damn thing on the ground, personally.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I think I've related the story that I'm sure I've told it a few times on the show. This 13, 14 years we've been doing it. But I was on a test flight after maintenance was performed on a 727. And back in those days, they didn't use specifically trained pilots to fly these maintenance test flights after big maintenance had been performed. They just use air crews. Just they figure, well, you're checked out on this airplane, you can go and do this, and we'll send a mechanic with you, and he'll tell you all the things you're supposed to do, including shutting down engines, restarting, turning off hydraulic systems, turning them back on, that kind of thing. And so we were actually this wasn't a maintenance check flight. It was an actual in-service passenger flight that had work done on the control system. I don't know why they didn't. No, maybe it was. See, it's been so long, I can't remember exactly. I guess we didn't have passengers on. Anyway, we're taking off out of Atlanta, and the captain is flying the airplane, and he starts trying to turn the jet, and it's like jammed. So we're thinking, oh no, they've worked on those aileron cables. Maybe there's something like a tool or something in there to jamming the controls. I kept thinking about, Al Haynes and the DC-10 and the corn, what was it, Sioux City, Iowa, sort of crash landing. That's like going in my head. Oh no, what are we going to do? And then finally, after just about making an emergency declaration to Atlanta Center, he goes, "Hey, hang on." And then I said, "What?" He said, "Don't make the call yet." He said, "I think I know what's going on." So the autopilot,
and he pulled his coffee cup up.
Well, no, almost. The autopilot system on the 727, we had two different. We had a Block 4 and Block 5. The Block 4, the older system, had like two separate channels. You had a lateral autopilot channel and a vertical, and you could actually operate them separately. But usually when you engage the autopilot, it would engage both. And so he's flying the airplane, hand flying the vertical, the pitch mode. But at some point, maybe he didn't realize he had done it. He had taken the paddle for the ailerons, the banking of the aircraft had been engaged. And so he was like fighting against the autopilot. Like Nick, that just reminded me when you said that, Nick, that maybe the autopilot wasn't completely disconnecting, and that's why they had a tough time trying to turn the airplane to the left, and it was just doing what it was supposed to do. But yeah, we were like, whew, okay, that was a close call. I mean, I just about made an emergency, a mayday call, saying that we didn't have any control, And so
where's
never
my
mind.
parachute?
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, well, how did I get in this situation?
Yeah.
But the airplane, that 727, when you were hand flying it, there were times when I was hand flying it, when I get up to 17, 18,000 feet, sometimes in the low 20s, just hand flying the airplane, because it was so solid when you were manually flying it that you'd forget sometimes that you have not engaged the autopilot yet. You're just, because you let go of everything and it's just like flying on its own, like it's
Brilliant.
on autopilot, but it's not on autopilot. And
Yeah,
then all of a sudden,
just
I
beautifully
remember a couple of
stable.
times. Yeah, I just I'd go up there to turn the heading knob and go, oh, why is this not? Oh, okay, I have to turn on autopilot on. Anyway,
Excellent.
I digress.
Because I thought you'd probably bring up the question, why do they need autopilots? You know, 3 autopilots failed, so what? Hand fly the airplane to JFK. And it wasn't until we realized that they had this sort of, I can't turn the airplane.
We can't control the airplane.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, I had not even thought of that. Thank you, Nick, for bringing that up. That was
Not at all.
a good point. Good point. We're not saying that's what happened, but
No.
that's a possibility.
But
maybe
it is a possibility.
All right. Okay. How are we doing? Any updates with Dr. Steph? Okay. I'll tell you what. Let's jump to F, because I'd like her to be here as well for this for that one. This is another update. The what are they calling this? P gate instead of Watergate. P gate. Yeah, there was some water there, I guess. Air India is hit with, this is from Paddle Your Own Canoe. The Air India airline is hit with $37,000 fine over handling of the infamous P-Gate incident. Let's see. India's civil aviation regulator has hit national flag carrier Air India with a fine of 3 million Indian rupees. That sounds like a lot of money.
Much more impressive.
I know. And then it's $37,000.
$37,000. That's not even a cheap car.
I know. For its handling of an unruly passenger incident in which a drunken business class passenger urinated on an elderly lady during a flight from New York, JFK, to New Delhi. Along with the hefty fine, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation also suspended the flying license of the pilot in command.
I thought that was a bit tough.
Yeah, me too. I'd really like to know exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Air India's director of in-flight services was separately slapped with a fine of 300,000 rupees. And just doing the math, that's about 10% of 3 million. So that's only what, $3,700. So not a lot. The airline has already promised to introduce new training and procedures to deal with unruly passenger incidents. So yeah, we remember that the guy had a little bit too much to drink. I still don't understand why he thought pulling out the goods and urinating on an old lady in business class was appropriate, even being really, really drunk, but whatever. Okay. So that's our update. Okay.
Yes,
yeah, hopefully.
and they dragged the Americans into it because, of course, he worked for Wells Fargo, so he was a bit of a cowboy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cowboy?
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, and we'll save that sound effect will come in handy for this next one here. G. Let's see, from CBSNews.com. TSA confiscated a record number of guns from airline passengers in 2022. They confiscated more than 6,542 firearms from airport passengers in 2022, the highest number recorded since the agency's inception. Of those guns taken at airport security checkpoints, 88% were loaded.
Oh, ouch.
The agency announced Tuesday. Yeah, I know. Like, wow. The confiscations
Do they get them back, Jeff?
I don't think so.
Oh, really? Wow.
Because they're committing a crime by taking them in there. So I don't think.
And I've seen displays with like the guns, so I guess they don't get them back.
So the TSA agents get them all, do they? They're like six guns.
Yeah, TSA is heavily armed. The confiscations by TSA mark a nearly 10% increase over the 5,972 seized in 2021, which is also a record. The agency announced in December that it was raising the maximum civil penalty for a firearms violation from $13,910 to $14,950. That'll keep them from doing it.
Yeah, that extra $1,000 going to make all the difference.
Yes. Okay, so they have a graph here, a chart. Thank you, Liz, of the airports with the most firearm discoveries. And yeah, you'll see Atlanta in there.
Oh, Atlanta's pretty high.
Number one.
Oh, it is, yes. Cowboy City.
Now, I will say that if you look at the two figures for DFW in Austin and Houston in Texas, I bet that as a percentage of passengers, that use those airports in a year, I bet the percentage is probably pretty close to the Atlanta.
Probably.
Yeah. Yes, Texas is definitely well armed, Liz, for sure. Yeah, so the top cities here, in case you're wondering: Hartsville, Jackson, Atlanta International Airport, 448; Dallas Fort Worth, 385; George Bush Intercontinental Airport, Houston, 298; Nashville, 213; Sky Harbor in Phoenix, Arizona, 196. Guess they got some cowboys out there too. Orlando International, 162; Denver International, 156; Austin Bergstrom International, 150; Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa. So we got basically Georgia, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Tennessee, a lot of Florida, and Denver. Did I mention Denver? Yeah, Denver, Colorado. That makes sense. Yeah. Anyway.
Of course, it's not necessarily that the people of Atlanta are more gun-toting, rootin'-tootin' cowboys than anyone else. It could be that the TSA agents in Atlanta are very good at their job, and everyone else is letting the guns go through.
That's possible. Yeah, that's a possibility. Anyway, that when you see this, and then I don't know what the figure is. I'm pretty sure it's probably a shockingly high number of guns, loaded guns, probably make it through without being detected, and that gives cause for concern.
We don't have that stat. Funny old thing.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping that I get through retirement before anybody
with your gun
through. Yeah, with the gun. Yeah. Okay, that'd be nice. Thanks, Liz. She's talking about buying a bulletproof vest for me for
Now,
the last few
it's.
months.
I'm correct in saying that if you're packing, then you're carrying a gun, yeah?
Yes.
Well, passengers who wish to transport firearms are instructed to follow the proper packing guidance.
Oh no, you can pack. You can literally pack a
them
gun
in
in your check bag.
Oh, I understand the confusion now between, packing
Well, you
your
told me it was
firearm
okay to
and
be
packing your
packing it.
firearm.
Maybe they need to use a different term. Perhaps that's part of the problem.
Possibly.
Yeah. Very confusing. All right. Let's continue with this next one. Virgin Atlantic fined by U.S. Department of Transportation for operating flights carrying Delta Airlines code in prohibited airspace. Oh, no.
This is so naff.
I know. How is this even news? I don't know. But this is from the aviation24.be. So the U.S. Department of Transportation, the DOT, today fined Virgin Atlantic $1.05 million for operating flights carrying Delta's code, DL, in regions in which Federal Aviation Administration flight prohibition was in effect. The airline was ordered to cease and desist from future similar violations.
Cease and desist.
So I guess Virgin operated a significant number of flights carrying the DL code over restricted airspace in Iraq. Now, I would imagine they're using their code, and then because it's a code share airline, that they have those other codes as well. I don't know. This doesn't seem to make sense to me.
They'll be operated as a Virgin flight with a Virgin call sign and Virgin everything, except that if you're a DL or Delta passenger, you'll be able to code share onto that flight using your Delta ticket. But I suspect that that's a naughty.
It all comes down to which app you can check into the flight for.
Exactly, yeah. But
so does that mean, like if you looked at FlightAware or whatever, and you looked at that Virgin flight, that it would be DL and then the flight number? I don't think so.
Well, I don't know.
I bet it would say Virgin.
Yeah, I suspect it would as well.
I'm a little perplexed about this one too.
I suspect that there's in the small print of the DOT, it says you can't do that.
Okay.
And that's an expensive mistake to make. I mean, I must admit, on our little private retired Virgin pilots group on the social medias, we were having a laugh about this and commenting how often the pilots get smacked wrists for doing naughty things, yet some administrator in operations has let this slip. Because it's obvious they just made a mistake and went, oh damn, we forgot that these were code share flights, so we can't do that, and programmed the wrong route. So and I think I wonder how many of them got fired for losing the company £1 million. Probably nobody. But there you go.
Yep.
I guess I was a little surprised that I would have thought that the U.S. and the U.K. would have very similar guidance for flying over certain airspace. I was a little
we don't
surprised
even agree with the rest of Europe, so
okay.
We're not going to agree with you lot.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, so you're saying that the UK is kind of a bunch of cowboys?
Oh, most certainly, yeah. A bunch of Anglo-Saxons, actually. You don't have a noise for them.
I don't know what to push for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as good as any.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Another Indian airline story. Okay. This is from ndtv.com. BJP leader Tejasvi Surya opened the emergency exit of an Indigo plane last month by mistake and apologized for it. The Civil Aviation Minister said today, confirming an incident that has spurred opposition, derision, and attacks on the Karnataka MP. I guess these are the various parties in their political system. Indigo said on December 10, a passenger accidentally opened the emergency exit of its flight 6E7339, Chennai to Tiruchirappalli at the that's gotta be right at the Chennai airport during the boarding process when the plane was on the tarmac. The passenger apologized, said the airline. The passenger was Tejasvi Surya. The aviation minister has now confirmed, over a month after the incident, it's important not to be circumspect. Look at the facts. The door did open by mistake. All checks were taken, and only after that the plane was allowed to take off. And he also said sorry for it himself. Officials say the flight was delayed by over 2 hours as the aircraft took off after the aircraft took off for its destination, only after stringent engineering checks. Mr. Surya rested his hand on the door.
They closed the door.
Yeah,
that's for the stringent engineering check.
Is that it? It takes 2 hours to
know.
do that. Wow. I didn't say anything about the slide deploying or anything.
No, I'm wondering if it was unarmed at the time.
Must have been.
Yeah.
He just rested his hand on the door, unlocking the exit, according to officials. Several opposition leaders, okay, now where politics are involved, are questioning why he got away with a mere apology and did not face more serious action, like stepping down from his position.
Resign.
Yeah. Let's see. The incident was logged. The passenger apologized. The aircraft underwent mandatory engineering checks. The crew took note, and resultantly all appropriate airworthiness action, such as reinstalling of door, pressurization check was carried out before the release of the aircraft for departure. Reinstalling the door. Why would they have to do that?
If it wasn't a hinged door, perhaps it was an emergency exit that fell off, one of those. I don't know.
Like a little plug window.
Could be.
Yeah.
Does it even say what kind of airplane it was? I don't think it does.
No. We left hanging here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. That just...
You see, I love this quote here.
Yeah.
This bloke, I can't pronounce his name nearly as well as you, Jeff, is an example of what will happen if children playing games are given proprietorship. An act of children's mischief by trying to open the emergency exit door of the plane has come to light. Why prank with the lives of passengers?
What? Was he? I don't think he was pranking. Do you? Maybe he was. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
This is the interesting thing. Shiv Sena, MP Priyanka Chaturvedi posted, shouldn't one take suo moto cognizance, a Latin term which means an action taken by a government agency, court, or other central authority on their own apprehension of this incident? I actually added all that because I went, what does that mean? Suo moto cognizance. Have anybody heard of that Latin term before?
No, it sounds Japanese.
Yeah. I guess what they're trying to say there is that shouldn't he have done more to like punish himself for this mistake? And yeah, they wanted more to happen than just an apology.
Of course. Well, they're the opposition. Of course, they're going to say that.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, much to do about nothing. All right. Well, this is an interesting one. Last, of course, we still have one remaining. We're waiting for Steph to join us. But item 01, what is that? An LHI. Delta
J?
passenger, or I don't know what it is.
1J?
1J.
This
Is
is
it
the
J?
chicken
Oh, yeah, it
wings.
is. Well, why is it? Oh, I think something must have been shuffled here. And I'm looking at one, it says J, and then the other that says I. Anyway, a passenger stormed Delta Airlines gate D7. And I have a good friend that's familiar with these gates at the Atlanta airport, grabbed a fire extinguisher and came out spraying. According to a witness, the woman dined and dashed from Buffalo Wild Wings. In other words, ate at a restaurant and
It's
left
those
without
wild wings.
paying.
They'll do you every time.
Those wild wings. When she was asked to pay, she unleashed herself on the rest of the terminal. Okay.
Oh my God.
So we do have some video. It's kind of an interesting thing to watch. And so let me pull that up. And yeah, I wish I'd set this up, but here we go. And There we go. We're going to add it to the stream. Okay. So from ATL Scoop. Okay, it's a gate. The lady's trying to get into the door of the flight.
Because of the fact that somebody else paid for my meal.
I'm going to pause it for a moment. I'm just guessing here. I'm thinking that door that she's trying to open to the jetway to get to the jet was her flight, and somehow maybe Buffalo Wild Wings somehow was able to alert people to not let her go on the flight because she left without paying or whatever. I don't know for sure if that's what's happening here or not, but the door is clearly closed, and she's trying to explain that, that somebody else paid for her meal. Okay, so let's continue. Now she's walking down the concourse, and apparently she has a fire extinguisher in her hands. And she just sprayed somebody that was walking up behind her with the. Now look, there's a security guy, and he's not doing anything. I don't understand this. What's the security person doing? He just watched her walk by. This guy's choking up because he's starting to breathe some of this fire extinguisher stuff.
That shit nasty.
Now she's nasty. And she's walking over to another gate. This one is D7. The first one was a D9, I think. Okay, now she still has the extinguisher. Walking toward the open jetway door.
She's a terrorist.
The gate is walking away. Somebody's yelling for them to close the door. A flight attendant looks like running over to help diffuse the situation. Now, I'm going to remove this video and then play this next one, which is kind of takes over from where we left off on that one. And here we go. Open and play. Okay, so she's walking over to that gate D7, and people are saying, close that door. But the door's wide open. And then she's walking back away from the door. I guess they grabbed her from the jetway and dragging her back out. Oh, now she's firing the extinguisher again. Oh, she's going crazy with it. Finally, one of the security people kind of grab a hold of her and knock her to the ground and remove the extinguisher from her. Okay, so that's the aftermath. Okay, it's very foggy in there now because of all the fire extinguisher. I don't know what kind of was that a carbon dioxide or was that a halide?
Well, I'm assuming it was a powder because people are choking on it, but CO2 doesn't tend to do that. And also, you can hear CO2 extinguishers going off. They make a big whoosh as they expel the gas.
Well, that was fun.
Yes.
I swear, somebody else told me they were going to pay for it. Let me go on my flight, darn it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to spray you with this extinguisher.
So what would they be charging her with?
Unlawful use of a fire extinguisher? I don't know. Yeah, given the earlier story, she's probably lucky she didn't get shot, according to Neil in our live audience. You're
well,
right.
all those passengers that kept their guns on them, they could have shot her, shouldn't they?
I know.
I will say the most glaring point for me when I was reading this story is poor Delta had nothing to do with this incident, but their name is splashed all over the article. It's in the title, and they're just like the unfortunate, have the unfortunate circumstance of being the closest gate that she hosed down with the fire extinguisher.
Exactly. Because Delta's not the only one that uses those gates in that terminal. Who knows where she was really trying to go? But
which leads me to the question:
yes,
where are the wings on a buffalo?
That is kind of
particularly a wild buffalo.
We kind of buried the lead on this whole thing.
Oh,
where?
yeah.
What's that, Liz?
you know the story, right? It's not the Buffalo the animal, it's Buffalo the place.
Oh, I didn't know.
Buffalo, New York.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Buffalo, New York. That's where
Liz
it
would know
became
about that.
famous.
It's right across the river from her, or the border or something.
Yeah, not too far at all from Toronto.
Yep.
And Hamilton.
Hang on a minute. Buffalo, New York's nowhere near Toronto.
Well, it's across the
New
lake.
York isn't anyway.
Well, Buffalo, New York is right across the lake from. They're right
Buffalo,
there.
New York's pretty close.
Yeah, Niagara Falls and that part of the lake. You just go across the border there, Niagara Falls, and you're in Canada, and just a little bit longer. Yeah, about an hour and a half, Liz says, drive.
You've got more than one New York.
It's New York State, not New York City. That's the
okay.
mistake.
I assumed it was somehow
This is confusing
a suburb
for-
I'll withhold my comments about how confusing the whole like Britain versus UK versus England thing is to all the Americans over here.
I know.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
I'm
that's-
just now
they
starting
can't
to
get that
understand.
right.
Wallow in his
Yeah,
geographical confusion right now.
Yeah.
How many countries are in your country? That's my favorite question.
Just a few.
Makes perfect sense to him. Hello, Steph. She
Hi.
is joining us.
Hi, Steph.
Hi,
Glad to
good
see you.
evening. Yes, I will just preface everything with I am quite tired, and I think my computer is too. It shut down on its own. I did not do that. Evernote had a very difficult time loading just now. It seems to be up and running, so
Okay.
I'm just going to
Fingers
sit here and
crossed.
drink a beer and try to stay
Oh,
awake.
no, you're going straight into a news item.
Yeah, we're kind of saved this one because it's it's a sad story.
Evernote hasn't even loaded. I don't know.
Well, that's
Go ahead
all
and
right.
read it.
Just
who knows?
you can listen along with
Okay.
everybody else and
Evernote
watch
quit unexpectedly.
listen to the audio. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just leave it alone. Okay. Let's
What is going on?
do this right here. What number is this? E. Thank you. Okay. Received this from, well, let me preface this by saying one night, the night that this accident occurred, I got a text from Radio Roger. You know, he's a real radio / TV reporter. And a week ago tonight, thank you, Liz. And he said, Jeff, is there any way to figure out, I guess there's an airplane that they've lost track of or something's happening to. Is there any way to, look up flight plans and figure out, who this airplane is and what's going on and that kind of thing. And I tried to help it. I couldn't figure out a way to see flight plans that were filed by other parties and, not scheduled airline passenger service kind of things. And then, so he sent this to me, Radio Roger. Jeff, thanks for letting me pick your brain last night. As it turns out, even if I'd found a site for flight plans, it wouldn't have helped. This plane was going from John F. Kennedy in New York City to Cleveland, Ohio. And he said, I've attached one of my radio reports from last night. If you use it, keep in mind that it was recorded before the plane and the two victims were found. It's a timeline of the events leading up to the disappearance. You'll have to talk about the aftermath in your coverage. Thanks again, Roger. And so here, take it away, Radio Roger.
The plane is a 6-seater Beechcraft Bonanza 836. Westchester officials say there were 2 people on board when the aircraft left JFK at 4:58 p.m., bound for Ohio. Less than half an hour later, at 5:25, the pilot radios Westchester County Airport to report low oil pressure. 5 minutes later, the plane disappears from radar less than 2 miles from the airport. And in 8 minutes, the county launches a search and rescue mission in the area near the airport, including Rye Lake. Roger Stern, 1010 Winds on 92.3 FM near Westchester County Airport, north of White Plains.
And just to be clear, he didn't do that just for our show. He did that. That was a real broadcast for the area up in New York City, that market. That's his real job, his day job, as Liz said. Okay. So right now we're showing a FlightAware flight path of the flight left John F. Kennedy International, heads out east a little bit, then northeast, and then north, over the Long Island Sound. By the way, the weather that evening was not good. Heavy rain, low ceilings, and low visibilities. And we're going to pick up the flight's progress while they're in the climb. I think they're leaving 3,700 feet for an assigned altitude of 8,000 feet. And 19 Mike Tango, the Bonanza, is the accident flight, and they're checking in with New York departure.
New York departure, November 19 Mike Tango, on a 360 heading.
19 Mike Tango, New York. Just confirm you're on a 360 heading, climbing to 8,000.
Leaving 3,700 for 8,000 and 360 heading.
Number 19 Mike Tango, proceed direct to Sparta. Just maintain your best rate of climb all the way up to 8,000.
Okay, direct Sparta all the way up to 8,000. I'm doing my best here. Thank you. New York departure, November 19 Mike Tango. Can we stop our climb at 6,000?
You can for now, but I have to climb you to 8 along this route. So if you want to level off at 6 for a minute to accelerate or do something, that's fine. But I am going to keep you climbing to 8 in about 10 to 15 miles.
All right. We're not getting the performance we're expecting, and I'm not certain why. 19 Mike Tango.
Roger, are you unable 8,000? I can get you an alternate route up over Huguenot. Probably that'll keep you down low.
I also understand why we're only climbing at about 200 feet per minute, and can't see a reason why we shouldn't be. So 8,000 is going to take a long time to get to 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, Roger. And you think you might have an issue, or is it just you're not sure what's going on?
What's going on? I don't see anything on the instrumentation at all, except for lack of vertical speed.
Number 19 Mike Tango, the Westchester County Airport's right off your right wing if you want to land and check it out.
New York departure, we have figured out the problem. I've got a dead cylinder, so we would like to go to Westchester, and I'll take vectors for that. November 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, you're clear to the Westchester County Airport via radar vectors. Turn right, heading 340, and maintain 5,000.
Right 340, maintain 5,000, 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, they are landing runway 16, so you can start planning the ILS runway 16.
It's going to take me a minute to get things changed around here.
It's all good, take your time. 19 Mike Tango, are you declaring an emergency?
Not at this time.
Roger.
Just to verify, that's Hotel Papa November, 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, affirmative. Hotel Papa November, and they're using the ILS for runway 16.
Alright, using ILS 16.
19 Mike Tango, when you can, make a right turn heading 340. Looks like I see you doing it now.
I am declaring an emergency. Our oil pressure is dropping. 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, it looks like you're on a hard right turn to the southeast. So I just want you to fly wings level and maintain 5,000. Can you do that?
Wings level 5,000. November 19 Mike Tango.
I don't care what heading, just fly wings level at 5,000. Number 19 Mike Tango, so what heading do you show yourself on now?
I'm on a 090 heading, and we are going to declare emergency. We are losing oil pressure.
19 Mike Tango, Roger. Can you turn left heading 070, vectors ILS 16?
070 for the ILS 16, 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, understand you're losing oil pressure?
Yes, we are losing oil pressure. This is an emergency. 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, Roger. I'm vectoring you. You're right overhead the Westchester County Airport now, so I'm going to put you on a left downwind for runway 16.
Okay, vectoring me for left downwind for runway 16, 19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, heading 360 and maintain 3,000.
Down to 3,000, 19 Mike Tango.
Number 19 Mike Tango, the bases at Westchester are reported at 300 feet.
I flew that ILS a couple weeks ago, so we'll try for it.
Okay, but you want to fly the ILS? or do you want to? I'm not sure. Do you have engine power right now? Are you able to maintain altitude?
No, the engine is overriding right now.
Southwest 1599, go direct parks, contact departure 12085.
Is that for American?
Mayday, 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 mayday.
Number 19 Mike Tango, understand the airport's just behind you now. You want to start a left turn if you can. I'm seeing a right turn. American 1581 heading 290.
290, American 1581. And center, was that for American 1599 to direct park in 2085?
American 1599, all's correct. 12085 direct park.
All right, good luck.
Thank you. Number 19 Mike Tango, the airport is now at your 8 o'clock and 5 miles. 19 Mike Tango heading with the 220 direct to the runway. 220 heading direct to the runway. American 1581, go direct Biggie, contact departure 12085.
Biggie 12085, American 1581, good luck.
Number 19 Mike Tango, the airport's now at your 11 to 10 o'clock and 3 miles.
11 to 10 o'clock, 3 miles.
The airport's now 12 o'clock and just under 3 miles now. Number 19 Mike Tango, you're set up perfectly for a left base to runway 16. 11 o'clock and just under 2 miles. Number 19 Mike Tango, you look beautiful for the left base for runway 16. Airport's at your 10 o'clock and 2.7 miles.
I've got 2,300 feet of altitude.
Understood, yes. 19 Mike Tango, thank you. The airport's at your 9 to 10 o'clock and 2.4, so you're looking really good for that left base. Again, the bases are reported at 300.
Give me those vectors because I can't see a thing up here.
I understand. You want to turn back to the right now. That left turn you just did there, you want to turn back to the right, heading 2, maybe a 230, heading to set you up for the final. Winds are 110 at 7. 19 Mike Tango, you are clear to land, runway 16. At the runway's at your 10 o'clock at 1.7 miles, turn left, heading 160. 19 Mike Tango, heading 160 for the runway. Number 19 Mike Tango, I'm showing the runway off your left wing, 1.7 miles. In 900 feet indicated, just make sure you'll break out at 300, you should see the lights. 19 Mike Tango, the airport's now at your 10 to 11 o'clock and 1.6 miles. 19 Mike Tango, you just want to go slightly left and keep the shallow descent going. You should break out here shortly. 19 Mike Tango, you want to go more like a 150 to 140 heading to the runway. 19 Mike Tango, you want to correct back to the left now for the runway at your 10 o'clock. Radar contact lost. 19 Mike Tango, the runway's at your 10 o'clock in less than a mile.
19 Mike Tango.
19 Mike Tango, radar contact lost. Number 19 Mike Tango.
November 9 Mike Tango.
Any word from him?
I don't have anything on the aircraft right now. Does anyone, if you're on frequency, do you hear any ELCs?
Okay. I mean, that's probably the third or fourth time I've listened to that, and it just makes my heart rate just putting myself in the position of these two people, the pilot in this airplane that is having engine trouble and just the worst weather you can imagine. 300-foot ceiling is just 300-foot ceiling, even makes airline pilots a little on edge.
This was a combination of all the bad things at all the wrong times. I mean, listening to it, I think you'd have a hard time finding any fault with anything that was said there, done there. I think they were both doing the best with what they had in that moment. So, as to the reason for why they, the ultimate reason why they had the engine issue, not sure, but lost a cylinder, oil pressure dropping. It's pretty.
Yeah, it's and you could even hear that I had to bump up the transmissions from 19 Mike Tango because it was a really low level. But in doing the bumping up of the audio level, you could hear the engine in the background. And when he first started communicating with New York Departure, it sounded like everything was running smoothly. And then those parts where he said, I don't know what's going on. The performance is not what I'm expecting. It's only 200 feet per minute. I don't know why. You could almost hear something wasn't quite right with the engine at that point. And then those last few transmissions that we heard, I didn't hear any engine noise at all. So I think the engine had just shut down completely. What was I going to say? So initially and this, by the way, this New York departure controller was just amazingly awesome. The way he stayed calm and was giving directions and encouraging him and positive comments was really, really good. And I think initially what he did when he said that, I want to go to White Plains, Westchester County, HPN, I think when he set him up on that 340 heading, which is in the lower left-hand corner of this graphic that we're seeing now on the video, I think he was setting him up for a right downwind to do the ILS to 16. And I'm wondering, I don't know, this is just speculation, if he had, I think what happened is he got so task saturated with the engine troubles and trying to reconfigure everything in his instrumentation or his avionics. I'm not sure what kind of if he had a Garmin system or it had more of an old-fashioned kind of setup. When he was looking up all that information or setting it in his flight computer, I think he didn't realize he was continuing that right turn. Instead of rolling out on 340, he ended up heading out more to the east and even southeast at one point, I think the air traffic controller said. And so he said, okay, now I'm just going to have to pass him over or just south of the airport and set him up for a left downwind. And I'm wondering if he hadn't been distracted and hadn't made that huge turn to the east or southeast, and if he continued on that 340 heading and then a right base and landing, if he would still have had enough power left to actually successfully fly this ILS approach. I don't know. It's just speculation.
Yeah, unknown. And I was wondering that looking at the picture, but then listening to the communications, I wasn't 100% certain, but you've listened to it a few more times than I have. So sometimes going back through those things and really, looking at everything together and in sequence can kind of piece that together a little bit better. But yeah, this is one of those things where you listen to incidents like these happen and you can't help but think, okay, if I'm in that situation, what is my plan of action going to be? And I think it really just drives home that point of you can't really delay on figuring out your plan of action and then acting on it immediately. You've got this airport, within striking distance, go straight there, get there as quick as you can. Try not to, add any unnecessary mileage to that track, because if you're having engine trouble and that engine quits on you, then you've got to be able to glide to that airport. And I'm certainly not, like I said, I think everything that happened here sounded very reasonable to me, and I think anyone in their situation probably would have done exactly the same.
Had it been VF or VMC,
completely different situation.
It would have. This probably wouldn't have been we wouldn't be talking about it.
No, they would have seen the airport. They would have gone straight there. They would have landed.
Yeah. I have a question for Nick C. The Bonanza. I'm not. You have a Debonair, which is a kind of is it an early version of the Bonanza or
yeah.
And I'm looking at the airspeed of this data printout of the flight. Airspeed got up to looks like over 200 knots. Is that a normal speed for a Bonanza or?
That's on the high side.
Yeah.
Definitely on the high side for a airplane with engine trouble. This is an airplane that probably cruises at somewhere between 160 and 170 knots.
Okay.
So 200 would be feasible. It'd be hard to do in straight and level flight, but I would anticipate that's probably a period of flight where they maybe got a little overwhelmed and had a brief.
May have been during that whole turn that he was making that he should not have made, and because he's trying to
IMC
get
and
And you know what? That controller, again, kudos to him saying, look, just roll out, wings level. I don't care what heading, just wings level. Because he could kind of, I'm wondering if this controller is a pilot himself and understands how you can get disoriented and task saturated very, very quickly in a situation like this.
Yeah, that would make sense to me, because it takes thinking through putting yourself in that situation to know what's happening from the pilot's perspective, which, unless you have some of that experience, it's hard to know how to do that. I would say even as a controller. I have very limited experience flying Bonanza, but maybe a question for Nick C as well. But glide characteristics of aircraft like this, not the greatest.
Not great. I mean, it's I was trying to think. I think maybe 9-to-1 is a number that sticks out in my head for glide ratio. And so in other words, like for every 1 foot you lose, you'll go 9 feet forward. That's not great. In all of the engine out training that I've done, one of the significant factors that's been hammered into my head is to pull the prop back. Mm-hmm. So this airplane has a constant speed prop, and when you lose power, basically what happens is instead of the propeller pulling the airplane, the engine driving the propeller basically drives the engine, and there comes a point where instead of generating thrust, that propeller is acting like drag, right? And so what you want to do is put it in the coarsest pitch possible to get it to slow down as much as possible, and that'll reduce the drag, and it'll significantly increase your glide performance. But the other aspect of that propeller is it's a hydraulically actuated propeller, and so it's spring-loaded to the fine position, and then you use a governor and oil pressure to move the blades back to off the fine pitch stop to whatever setting you want to maintain an engine speed. And you notice he said the engine is surging or the engine is over revving. And I think what's happening there is as he's losing oil pressure, not only is the engine losing power, but he's also losing control of the propeller.
Yeah.
Because the governor's not going to be able to work the way that he's saying. So, that's just another ancillary factor. And it's way down the list, right, for concerns that he has or issues that he has. But it is one of those things where if you practice, main man Micah says glide ratio 10-to-1. So I got close. It's one of those things where even if you practice engine outs a lot and you get used to pulling the prop back, you may be in a scenario where you don't have that option. And so now you're dealing with
there. It's not.
Yeah, you're dealing with an airplane in worst case scenario, and now it's not even performing the way you anticipate it performing, even if you have all that training, which a lot of people may be lacking. And
I can't hear whatever Jeff is trying to say.
Oh yeah, Jeff was trying to say something.
Well, I can hear myself just fine.
I thought he was just trying to pat Steph on the head.
Well, I was going to say that when I saw the situation and the fact that the engine had shut down, and I was looking at the altitudes and distance to the runway, I'm thinking it brought me back to that AOPA. What do they call it? The impossible turn experiment that they did. Yeah. And one of the airplanes in that was the Bonanza, and that was the airplane that never, no matter what they did, when they made that U-turn to come back to the airport, it never made it back because
it just doesn't have that kind of
not
performance.
It's not a glider at all.
No. And I mean, then, we already talked about this, but yeah, in IMC, breakout at 300 feet, that just doesn't set you up optimally for trying to figure anything out. If you don't have engine power at your disposal to fly an ILS and you're trying to dead stick it, it's
yeah. So that's another thing I was going to bring up is we're all looking at this like sitting at our computers, right, with all of the facts at our disposal, and it's still hard to determine what the best decision or best scenario is.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm in a couple of beach groups and Bonanza groups where this has been a topic, and the amount of discussion or discourse about even things like there's like a group of people that are like, he should have gotten vectored out and gotten as stable and as straight an approach to the runway as he could get. And then there's a whole other group of people that are like, no, he should have gotten over the airport, spiraled down, and even if he comes out of the clouds at 300 feet in a spiral and can't get the airplane lined up with a runway, at least he is over.
And there's there's more than one runway here.
So
even if you're not aligned with the one that you
taxiways.
intend on landing on, you might have a better option at 300 feet.
Sure, but if you're coming out of the clouds in a spiral So let's say you're coming down at 700 or 800 feet a minute, maybe 600 feet a minute. You basically have 30 seconds, right? From the time you come out of the clouds to the time you're impacting the ground. And it's just, like, I don't know what I would do.
It's terrifying.
I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about it, and obviously I'm not an instrument guy, so I don't have all the details, or I don't have all the knowledge there, but man, if you just asked me right now and had me,
put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What's
I
your
don't know what I would
gut?
do.
What's your gut?
I think,
I'm just curious.
I think I would spiral down because, and this has always kind of been my mentality, especially with that airplane, right? Is I pay for insurance, and the minute something goes wrong in the airplane, it's like I treat it like the insurance just signed the check for me. And my main concern is getting the airplane on the ground with as minimum impact energy as possible. And I think if I'm spiraling down over the airport, the likelihood is low that if I come out of the clouds at 300 feet, I'll be able to get the gear down, get the wings level, and get the airplane pointed at a piece of concrete. But I think it's pretty decent. The odds are pretty decent that I could get the wings level and get the nose up and get the airplane slowed down before it hit the ground.
Especially in an aircraft that has the aerodynamics of a brick, and I've flown not so much the Bonanza, but the Piper Arrow reminded me a lot of, I saw a funny cartoon from a CFI one time where for power off 180s, trying to teach it to their commercial students, the suggestion was as soon as you pull the power back for your simulated engine failure, you throw a brick out the window and follow it. That's how you want to turn back to the airport.
This is a perfect example of like different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Because coming from like Luscombe Chet background, I'm like, the Bonanza is a rocket.
Well, you have to know your airplane, right? And you have to know
it is a missile, right?
Performance of your aircraft. So
yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily have to do that in other airplanes that I fly, but if I was in that airplane, I would want to. This is so hard. The situation is almost impossible, right? Because you're in IMC. The potential for being disoriented with everything else going on is huge, right? You're trying to look at everything going on with the engine. This was nighttime as well. Yes. So dark, IMC, engine failure. Who knows what they were, someone in the chat brought up, was there, the windscreen covered in oil? Maybe. I know incidents where that's happened as well. So even if you break out at 300 feet, can you still see where you're going? I don't know. The ideal scenario in my mind in an aircraft like that, and this is just my first gut thought, is I would want to be directly overhead the field, spiraling, coming down, and as I come out of that last spiral, be immediately, well, 300 feet. This is really tough. Try and make that 300 feet on that last spiral around lined up with the runway that you intend to land on, or in a heading in that configuration over the airport.
And that's another thing I was going to bring up. And it's too bad Nick just walked away because he was actually going to have some relevant input for this. But I think Jeff will. Is the first thing I thought of was like high key, low key setting up for jet engine out scenario goes, and the way that you guys managed engine outs in training, I assume for. Maybe not the T-38 because you had two engines, but
we
single
did.
Engine airplanes.
In the T-37 and T-38, the preferred method for even a single engine failure was to come in an overhead pattern and hit the high key, low key thing. But here's something that you have to consider: the accuracy of that New York departure controller's radar.
Oh, fantastic.
Is it accurate enough to actually get them right over the top and in a position to land on doing a spiral?
Well, maybe not, but listening to him talk, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's not like he still presumably has other instruments at his disposal in the cockpit, his altimeter, his vertical speed, airspeed, all of that stuff is working. Hopefully.
But the thing that I, in my experience, when I'm up flying, and usually at cruise altitudes or, mid-teens, and traffic is called out to me, it's always like a mile or two closer or beyond where they're telling me to, there's
so
some
some of that
latency.
there's some, but also too, I will say some of that's probably a matter of perspective. I spend like 90% of my time flying, picking out other aircraft in the area and trying to anticipate where, and I'm looking at ADSB info in real time, listening to controllers call out traffic, knowing where the arrivals are and where aircraft I expect to see them. There are so many variables that go into how you're going to see and identify that aircraft. I'll tell you that time of day, lighting, cloud coverage, both, and whether something's backlit or not, your actual heading versus your track, their actual heading versus their track, all of those things are variables, and it makes it seem like it's not exactly where that aircraft should be.
Well, and I can tell you that many times they've said traffic 12 o'clock, 1 mile, and I've said, no, I've already watched them
go past
while they're telling me.
So there's
about
probably
it.
that
It's already
too.
passed by.
I will say in my
now,
experience,
I know we're operating at really high speed, so that's part of it.
In my experience in the approach and departure controller realm of things, it's more accurate.
Pretty
than
accurate.
That.
Okay.
Yeah,
because everything is a lot slower.
It's
That's
slower.
And then what I'm
it's,
thinking of is at cruise altitudes, and you're like,
centers.
going a lot
I don't know
faster.
about center controllers and their stuff, but
true. Their radar may not be quite as high a resolution as the lower altitude controller radar.
But I'll say, I just want to say one other thing too, because before we move too far from, accuracy of trying to figure out how to dead stick an aircraft at night in the in IMC and with an engine that's failed. I do a lot of approaches, flying jumpers. We basically, after the last jumper is out, we try to do a descent with power at idle. So
they try to hurt the airplane as much as possible without actually hurting the airplane.
We don't do that in the 182. I will just tell you that much right now. It's a little bit different. But basically, an idle descent all the way to the runway. The objective is to never have to touch the power. If we can. So, and we're pretty high up, 14,000 feet a lot of the time when we start, and we do it a lot on repeat. So you have a very good sense of, you kind of start to identify in the environment that we're in, because it's always the same airport, what your landmarks are, where you need to hit, what that, what that site picture looks like as you're coming down, and how it changes as you move through denser air, warmer air, because that does change. And usually we're pretty good at that. Every once in a while, you can still not be perfect with your accuracy, even though you're basically right over the airport. And even in my home environment, doing that at night in IMC would be terrifying to me. So.
Yeah. The only frame of reference that I have, when you say 300 feet, if I'm not at 300 feet and I break out, if I don't see the runway right straight ahead of me, that's a missed approach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they don't have an option here. There was no option.
I know. And I'm thinking, you're talking about spiraling down. And I'm thinking the chances of this guy actually getting anywhere close to that runway when he broke out at 300 feet. I mean, even if the engine was still running.
They got close, and it's such a shame that it was such a tragic outcome, because they did everything, I think, as best they could have given the circumstances they were in.
I agree. It's really, really quite sad.
Very sad.
These are two lives that were lost. Here's a picture of the two fatalities. And I guess they were well loved and liked by a lot of people out there. And
flying home from a funeral, I believe.
Oh, really?
Oof.
So they had flown, I think, from Chicago to New York.
Tim Van Ram is wondering how far from the airport the plane was found. It's just, there's a lake right at the approach end of that runway, and it was just on the other side of the lake in the trees.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, not far, like a mile.
I think the last time you gave him about a mile and a
1.3.
half or so.
Yeah. Not far. No, very sad.
Yeah. Very sad. Okay. Well, time to get to know us. Yes, ma'am. Okay, here we go. Let me pull that out. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Okay, you do it, Liz. Okay, getting to know us is that segment of the show where we get all caught up with what we've been doing between shows. This was a big gap of recording time than normal. We recorded a week from Monday, a week ago Monday, so we're on Thursday now, so that's, I don't know, what, 10, 11 days, a week and a half or so. Anyway, it's been a while. And let's see, who would like to tell us about what's been happening with them first? I should probably pick on Captain Nick since he's bending down to do something. I don't know, and he's still muted.
He's muted.
Still muted.
And he's still muted. Are his earphones muted also?
I think so. Somehow he knew to talk.
I thought if I stayed muted, then you'd pick someone
move
else.
on.
You're wrong.
Well, I'm very glad to say that nothing has happened in my world. It's all been quiet.
That's not true?
No.
Nope.
Well, do you know something has happened?
You had stuff happen today.
Today. I think
and there's been some...
you won a match or something?
I got through to the final of the over 65 singles in my bowling club, but that's no...
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Yeah, that's good, I think.
Thank you very much. Actually, I've been playing a lot this week, and we've had some very good results. So we're top of the league in one of my groups of players, so we're very pleased with that. But aviation, though, that's why we're all here, isn't it? Bloody flying. And I was very glad to meet the lovely Sam Dawson. I think you remember me mentioning he flies into London Heathrow every now and again, and he jumped on a train, came down, saw us, we went out to a nice pub and then came back for a bite to eat. Anyway, I got this in the mail, and Sam has apparently a broken propeller.
No. Well, Nick C knows how to fix that.
Exactly. No, it is a fabulous book written by Betty Gook about Baz Bagby, who apparently, according to the short note that was written with it, was one of Sam's uncles, or perhaps I don't know how many uncles he's got, perhaps he's only got the one, who was an aerial observer in World War One, and then became a pilot after the war. During the occupation, he was friends with such fantastic American aviators as Billy Mitchell, Jimmy Doolittle, and Carl Spaatz. And in World War II, he was back to active duty as a transport pilot. He started off as an observer, then became a pilot. And he went AWOL, apparently, from Eisenhower's headquarters. Not a great career move, but it was so that he could jump with the 82nd Airborne during the Normandy invasion. So I thought, what an amazing bloke. Fantastic. So thank you very much indeed for that.
You mentioned Billy Mitchell. I'll have to look into the history of that, because that's the name of the airport at Hatteras in the Outer Banks here in North Carolina.
Oh, well, Billy Mitchell was remarkable. He's really one of the fantastic aviators who formed, American... was a driving force, an American military aviation.
The B-25 is named after him. The B-25 military.
Oh, okay.
And so is the Milwaukee International Airport.
Yeah. He was famously court-martialed for criticizing the sort of general staff of the military at the time for building more battleships when they should be building aircraft carriers, which I thought was fantastic. Anyway, Billy Mitchell, amazing.
To go back and study my history some more.
Anyway, I'm going to take a look at this, and if I can find a plain tale in it without upsetting too much copyright, I don't think that'll be a problem, since Sam will be on my side.
Yeah.
I'll do one about that, but I can't wait to read that.
Yeah,
So
Sam
thank
and I
you
were
very
supposed
much
to meet
indeed,
up
Sam.
at Newark a couple trips ago, but that didn't work out.
Oh, what a shame. Well, he's coming to the UK again next
Well,
month. He's got
obviously
about 3
you're-
trips, so
you're
I'm
more
gonna try
favored to
and
him than I am.
catch up with him. And while I'm on the blower, do you want me to mention the artwork?
Yeah, why not?
There you go. You guys left me with an easy piece of artwork because it was about stowaways. And
I recognize that picture, actually.
yes, you do. So that's an amalgamation, actually, because we were talking about what I did when I did a walk around in a country where it might be possible that stowaways would climb into your undercarriage bays. Because on the 340, it was such a damn big airplane, I couldn't look up into the undercarriage bays. I used to reach up with my phone and take a picture of the inside of the bay, which is kind of the right hand half. That's A340. And the left half, of course, I needed someone.
You got to have a Boeing in there.
Yeah,
I know. The left half's
it's a different airplane.
it's their strange Boeing 737 turned into a maritime aircraft. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, I thought it was the B-52.
No.
I think that's
okay.
Are you talking about the
7.3s.
The P8?
Poseidon or
Poseidon?
whatever?
Yeah, that's the fella. And actually, it's a perfect, because I blended the two, it's a perfect example of a Boeing
Was it the no,
philosophy
you can't say
against Airbus philosophy, because they're both undercarriage bays. Anyway, of course, you have to hunt the APG stowaway. And Steph's looking for him, and she's not looking in the right spot. I can tell you that for now.
Well, she looks like she's almost looking about where your head is, up there in the upper right-hand corner.
Well, I think
Nick.
she hasn't quite got me. She's
got
looking
Rick.
straight up.
Oh.
Rick's peering through a little porthole. You're sticking your finger, picking your nose there.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Exactly. Nick's there hiding behind a bit of a bulkhead. And Liz has squeezed in beside a hydraulic accumulator. At least that's what I assume that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm up behind. I am stuck there with my hat on, up behind the
With sunglasses
articulating
on, 'cause it's
limb of
bright
the
in there.
gear. Anyway, that was a bit of fun. And I think we've got one for next week. What did we say? Thumb in bum minded neutral. That's a very long title.
Well, works for me.
Okay. Brilliant.
All right. Yeah, beautiful. Now, where is the show number on this thing? I looked and I could not find
It's easy. Look in the W, the right-hand half of the W.
Which W?
Very good point. The one that is on the yellow bit of pipe that's got a yellow wrap around it.
Okay, I can't zoom in close enough to see it. Okay.
You'll find it's written there sideways, just to make it a little difficult.
All right. Well, that was a tough one. A tough one.
It was a tough
beautiful,
one. You're quite right, yes.
Beautiful work.
But I like
there,
Rick's
as
new
always.
tattoo.
What is his tattoo? I can't tell either.
He's got an
APG logo on his forehead.
Oh, that's nice.
On his forehead.
He's had some work done since we've seen him last.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I thought if he's not going to pitch up, he's going to get a bit of.
Yeah, we won't let him
bit of
forget. Every
rubbish.
time he
It's
looks in the
drawing
mirror,
on,
he'll remember that.
someone's
oh yeah,
forehead
APG.
with a Sharpie when they pass out too early at the party.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly right. Absolutely. Brilliant.
I love it. Yes, very well done, Nick.
All right, thanks.
Very good. How about Stephanie? How have you been?
I've been well, thanks.
Good.
Yes, it's been an uneventful week and a half for me as well, for the most part. On Saturday, here in Charlotte, we have the U.S. National Whitewater Center, which is a really interesting place. They do, supposedly they do training for the whitewater events for the Olympics, like kayaking and that type of stuff. They have a competition channel built. And mostly what happens, though, is that people like me show up and people show up with their families, and they have the whitewater channel that you can go through as like kind of a guided raft ride, and they have ropes courses and a bunch of trails and mountain biking and things like that. And they host this race series. So 1 or 2 weekends, well, probably even more than that, maybe 1 or 2 days or events per month. They have some sort of event. Usually it's a trail race of some sort or a mountain biking race. The one this past weekend was, I'll put it in quotes, a speed skating race, short track speed skating, which you are not allowed to wear actual speed skates to. You can come in your figure skates or your hockey skates because that's what they rent there, and they wanted everyone on equal footing, I suppose, and probably not to impale each other with very long blades that they may or may not know how to actually use. But the short track was this, in the winter, part of the pond that they use for kind of resetting for the boat runs and the different whitewater channels. They drain it basically, and they set up an ice skating rink, and they also set up this kind of ice skating trail. So it's kind of this oval-ish trail with some other turns built into it. And the skating event was doing laps around this oval in pairs of, well, 2 to 4 competitors at a time. I think we only had 2 or 3. Not a lot of people showed up for this event, which was surprising to me, considering this is definitely a place known for winter sports. It's not. But they had kind of a youth division, which was like 10 and unders, and that was fun to watch. They just had to do 1 lap around the trail and a couple of different rounds to get to a winner, so that everyone had a chance to compete at least a couple times. That was fun. And then they split the rest of us up into, we could self-select into a recreational group or a competitive group. And I'm very glad I picked the recreational group, because the competitive group were basically local hockey players, and that would not have been the right place for me to compete. And as it was, the recreational group was great. It was kind of an odd mashup between those of us who were like in the 30 to 50 age range, and mostly runners who do a lot of the other race series on occasion, trail runs, but also know how to ice skate, and some teenagers who were very good at ice skating. And those of us who were a bit on the older side, we really got our butts kicked by these teenagers. It was quite difficult. We had to do 2 laps of this.
Youngsters.
Oh man, it was tough. It was really tough. We did 2 laps of this trail, which is not, I'm sure it was longer than like regulation short track stuff, with some pretty tight turns in there as well, because it wasn't exactly oval. It was kind of meandering a little bit. Not the smoothest ice in the world either. So definitely you had to take one of the corners in particular had kind of this like bump built into it, like a speed bump. So as you came around the corner, you had to like make sure you didn't launch yourself or lose your footing. But man, we would come off that track and just feel like, that was tough. That second loop every time, like it was a lot of work. And they did it as double elimination, so you had to keep going back out and into if you weren't winning, you were just in the losers bracket and you had to keep racing. I think I probably did it 4 or 5 times, and I was like wiped out afterwards. So it was good exercise. It was a lot of fun. I did not win any prizes. I think I came in 4th or 5th place out of like 8, maybe 9.
Well, it's a good thing you're not a very competitive person.
It's definitely a good thing. So, no, in the last race I was in, the girl that I lost to, I think she was probably 14. She went on to get 3rd place, and she was very good. So, that she definitely deserved it. She was a much faster skater than I was. Did not do anything aviation related, so that's really all I've got there. I have worked a lot. I've worked out a lot. I've been, aside from ice skating, been back in the pool a bunch and running a bunch, and finally have my bike set up on the new trainer that I bought for myself on Black Friday, and it's finally kind of up and running. I don't know what I'm doing with bicycles, so it's been a learning curve for me, trying to get it all set up appropriately and turning myself into a bike mechanic.
So it's like more of a real bike kind of thing?
It's my road bike
or whatever? Okay,
yeah, it's my road bike put onto a trainer. That
okay, rollers or
no, it's got a
fixed?
gear. Yeah, fixed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's been a good week, but I've worked out a lot this week, and I'm feeling it today. I'm a little tired. I'm not gonna lie.
Feels good though, right?
Oh, it's a good tired,
sort of?
But yeah. I'll be ready for bed as soon as we wrap up here. It'll be like 8:30. I'll be like,
okay, well, don't go yet.
No. I'm still here. It's okay.
Okay. Nick C.
Same for me. Not a lot going on. I guess I took one more work trip since we last chatted. Spent some more time in Dayton. Successfully wrapped up my testing for work without catastrophically breaking anything, which is a plus.
That's good.
My travel out and back was pretty nondescript, I guess, because I can't think of any issues that I had. Yeah, and then the rest of the time, spending some of my evenings out at the hangar working on the Luska manual, getting it all taken apart. It was a big football weekend last weekend, and the Chiefs, who is my family's team, won and moved on. So now they're in the conference championship. So I'll be booked this Sunday again to watch them play in that, and hopefully move on to the Super Bowl after that.
Who's going to be the quarterback for Casey?
Mahomes practiced yesterday, and he said he felt good.
Okay. Oh, good.
It was,
Okay.
yeah, for all the international people, our quarterback, which is the most important position, and the Chiefs quarterback is...
He's very good.
Arguably the best player in the league. Yeah.
Very good.
He got injured. He got injured last weekend.
Yes.
And so that's been like the most talked about point in sports media. And there were like, all the reporters were paying special attention to when he walked out to his press conference yesterday. Everyone was like taking videos of his feet. So there are like all these videos of Patrick Mahomes from like the thigh down, so they could see how like he walked up and down the stairs and like provide their,
the whole time he's
Their
walking, he's going, I got
analysis.
Yeah.
These are gait analysis experts.
Yeah.
You know, the media for sure did not pull in some sort of physical therapist or
right.
No,
they're like,
no.
It's 1,000%.
It's
Some
the
guy who has a
same-
journalism degree, and he's like,
it's the
oh, look,
same reporters.
he landed a little tender as he came off of that
It's
last step. And it's like,
the same reporters who will then go and write an aviation article and pick
Yes.
the wrong aircraft for the picture. Yeah.
Ding.
They're right. So
We love our journalists out there. Like
We do. We
yeah,
love you
you're
guys.
You guys are great, but
We do.
just stay in your lane.
No, we don't.
Okay. All right.
I'm
Do I
just
get to go now?
contractually obligated to
Yeah.
smooth over
Oh, actually,
any
I was gonna
offenses
say-
that we may have
Oh.
incurred.
I was going to
Yeah.
say one thing to Captain Nick. I didn't realize he was a Star Wars guy. But he is
Well,
sporting
I'm a great fan of Star Wars.
Mos
yeah.
Eisley Cantina t-shirt today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
I
didn't see
actually know
that.
this. Yep, nice. On Tatooine.
One of my Christmas presents. Absolutely.
I'm
No,
sporting
I'm a great fan of that, and Star Trek, I might add. So I can bat for both sides.
Have you kept up with both of them all the way through to all the new, now they're releasing like all the new Star Wars TV series, and Star Trek is doing the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the number of channels I've had to join, so I could watch the latest Star Trek series that has just come out with Captain Pike roaring around he's in the Enterprise, and for heaven's sake, Kirk's in the Farragut. I don't know what's going on there. And yeah, and the latest Star Wars is Andor. Is that his name? I think it's Andor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very much
It's
enjoyed
good?
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Keeping up to date.
Nice.
It's all good stuff.
I have not been doing any of that.
Oh, well, you're a working man. What do you expect?
Yeah. So we recorded the last show when I was on the second day of a 4-day trip. I was in Burlington, Vermont. Told you all about the fun we had with the jet bridge. Trip got better, I think. Yeah, we ended up. I got home Wednesday morning, and had a. Oh, I know what I did. Immediately after I ended the trip Wednesday morning, got in the car. In the parking lot, the employee parking lot, and headed south. Drove down to Tampa, Florida, because there's a big Tampa RV super show going on, like the biggest. They build themselves the biggest RV show of the year. And I went down there specifically because the company from which I'm buying my motorhome had all of their Unity, the bigger, built on the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter chassis, at the show. So this was the first time I was going to actually get to see and touch and actually go inside the motorhome that I ordered back in April of 2021.
Woohoo!
I'm very excited to hear about this.
There's the leisure travel van corner bed floor plan.
Does my bum look big in this?
Yours, it might. It might. It was nice. They had it in. I was disappointed though when I first got to the area where they had the leisure travel vans lined up, including their lower model based on the Ford Transit van. I mean, I'd say lower. It's a little bit, probably about $20,000, base price less, based on the Ford Transit chassis, as opposed to the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter chassis. Well, I went through all of them. I'm looking. I don't see the corner bed. That's why I drove all the way down here. I wanted to see the corner bed floor plan, and then I asked finally one of the people there. I said, "Where's the corner bed?" And they said, "Oh, Mercedes-Benz vans. They have a separate display, and they wanted us to put one of our Unities over there." So it ended up being the corner bed over there in the Mercedes
So
display.
it was there with all the fantastic Mercedes sports cars and
no car. It was all vans, all like mostly like those aggressive 4-wheel drive,
like 6-wheel, like crazy.
No,
okay,
no, not like
none
that.
of those things.
But they're like jacked up, like ride height, appropriate for actual 4-wheel, really real off-roading stuff, and this was the only one. The leisure travel van was the only one that was really a kind of a more luxury motorhome kind of vehicle in their pen. But I liked what I saw. Yes,
good man. I'd like it too. It looks very comfy.
Yeah, it's very nice. Let's see if I can. The interior. This is the interior of the floor plan there, and it's what they call the corner bed, and that's about a queen size bed in the back, with a little bit of it lopped off. So there's really no corner on that corner bed.
It's a rounded corner.
It's a rounded corner, yeah. Full, not a wet bath. It's a dry bath. So a separate shower and a separate toilet and tiny little dentist office sink there in the little lavatory area. Anyway, it's nice. I was very impressed with the fit and finish, and I'm looking forward to receiving it. And Liz is asking if there is any update on my delivery date. And from what they could tell, they actually had a sheet or a several page pad of like orders and delivery estimates and that kind of thing. And they're thinking anywhere from probably April through midsummer, possibly. So, yeah. And so I'm looking forward to that. And so that's what I did on Thursday and Friday. I went there.
Hang on a minute, Jeff. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out how does the driver see where he's going?
Well, you have to. They have a mirror. You wear a special helmet that shows you what's behind you, and then you have to just kind of
turns it around.
Virtual reality VR mask.
Jeff's specially trained for this from all of his days looking at the compass in the
mirror.
Right.
Yeah, in the
exactly.
mirror.
This is no problem.
This is Mad Dog approved.
It looks just like
driving.
Now you probably won't know this. Captain Scarlet's SUV. Captain Scarlet was a kids program, and they had this rugged, like huge tank device, and it always amazed me because the driver faced backwards and looked at a TV screen. So I thought, well, that's wacky. And then I suddenly realized that you were doing exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, no, those turn around for driving.
Ooh.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Not as fancy as you thought. Anyway, let's see. Let me take that out. So I drove down on Wednesday night. Thursday I was there at the show. The Thursday night, stayed at the hotel again. Then Friday I drove home, and Saturday and Sunday I did my normal singing at the church, and then back out again on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with Brent. Have some big news. First Officer Brent is captain to be first
Hey!
Brent,
Yeah.
and so
Wow.
he'll be in school soon.
You couldn't twist
To
his
be,
arm for 9 more months of first officering,
Yeah,
or
I
whatever
know.
you've got.
He
I guess
finally,
11 more months.
he finally started
He says,
thinking about how
"You're a
sick he
lovely
was
bloke,
getting of
Jeff, but
yeah. It just
I need
means
the
I'm just going
money.
to have to quit earlier because then I don't have my
Oh,
favorite
fair enough.
FO to fly with anymore.
Exactly right. Now,
think
no
We
one
get to
else
go
in
through
the
training
company is going
together.
to.
Yeah, we get to go to training together later this month. I say
that's
get to. Well, no, actually in February. About
Well,
about
later this
3
month
weeks
is
from
like
now.
this is the end of the month, so
Yeah, so
and February's
anyway.
a short month, so
And
basically
I'm
the same
hoping
thing.
that this next recurrent training will be my last.
Hooray!
Anyway,
The real question I
So-
have though is, do you have like the countdown calendar on your home screen like Captain Nick used to? For
No, but I
days
do
until
have-
retirement.
I do have what's that app called? Reminders or something like that. Here we go. Let's see if I can find it. 333 days.
Woo!
That which happens to be the countdown to
That's
actually it's
very
332. That's to my birthday, so it's Christmas Day this year. 332 days. Now, but I bid all my vacation so that it would go into November. So really, the last reasonably. Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure when my last flight's going to be. A lot of people have been asking. I don't know. Leave me alone. But it's probably going to be around right before Thanksgiving, probably of this year. Yeah, the dad list says the day after the RV comes. She might be right.
That's what I'm hoping.
I think it might actually be. I don't think I'm going to make it to November, honestly. Anyway, we'll see. So, and then, so we went out on a 3-day trip, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then here we are on Thursday. Yeah, a lot of Florida flying, a lot of short legs. Oh, yesterday was interesting. Yeah, there was a big storm system that went through. And I was looking at all the forecasts. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be perfect for our last flight of this trip, early Wednesday morning from Tallahassee to Atlanta. And I'm thinking, I'm hoping this goes a lot faster by, and then we'll be on the backside of this. No, it was just about to hit Tallahassee. And we ended up going way out east in Georgia, and then kind of making a beeline to the northwest and through it wasn't really that bad. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. So anyway, it worked out.
Good.
Made it. Still here. Okay, that's it. And go out. I'm supposed to go out on just a little turnaround on Monday to Greenville, Spartanburg, and back Monday morning, and that's it for
That's a
January.
long, taxing flight for you.
It is pretty tough. Pretty tough.
Greenville,
Anyway.
Spartanburg, for those who don't know, is halfway between where Captain Jeff and I are currently located from one another,
Yeah.
basically. And it's like a
Essentially.
4-hour drive
Yeah, and it's like a
between the two
20
of us, and it's halfway. So
Yeah. And from Atlanta to Greenville, Spartanburg is like a 24-minute flight or something like that. So it's just literally, as soon as you get up to your cruise altitude,
You
which is
just
not
go
high,
back,
you're already going back down, which is
Cruise
perfect.
is
You do wonder why people would fly it. I mean, wouldn't
I
it be
would.
quicker to drive?
because driving
It's usually
I-85
at the
is
end of
the
like
worst.
somebody from Greenville has gone to like Los Angeles,
Yes.
and so they had to go through Atlanta to get out to Los Angeles, and on the way back through Atlanta to Greenville. There's no nonstop from
Fair
LAX to Greenville. So that's, I'd say, a majority of the people on those really short little flights are just like a connection.
The rest of them are like me, and they hate Interstate 85, which is perpetually under construction around Greenville, Spartanburg.
Yes, that's true.
It's terrible. Yes.
I think my entire time laying over in
As-
Greenville, Spartanburg for the last 30-something years.
As long as I have
there's
lived
been
here,
something under construction.
I-85 has
Yeah.
been under construction.
Yeah.
And it's awful.
It's true.
Yeah. So I don't blame those people for taking the flight.
Okay. All right. So that's it for me. And I think now would be a good time for us to talk about the Coffee Fund.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. Sing it, Liz.
I
Love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh, yeah. The Coffee Fund, your way to support our show financially, if and only if you have the financial resources to do that. Like if you're flying lessons, or you need to scrape up some money for food and shelter and clothing and all that kind of stuff, well, then don't send us any of your stinking money. But if you have some extra, what do they call that? Extra coin, extra expended, that kind of income that you don't know what to do with. Yeah, you can send it to us.
Disposable income, Jeff.
Disposable, yes. Dispose of it by sending it, but by joining the Coffee Fund cadre, the Coffee Bar Club. A couple different ways. One is the Coffee Fund Classic method. Most people use that for like one-offs, every once in a while kind of thing. We do have some recurring contributors. Thank you to all of you. You know who you are for doing that. And then the other way, most people doing the recurring thing use Patreon. They're patrons of the show via Patreon. You can find out about how you can join either of those little groups by heading over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. And yeah, that's about it, except for our sad puppy face, because we don't have any new patrons but that's okay. We really appreciate those.
If you want a decent picture, I can get you one,
Oh, okay. That's right. You're a photographer who specializes in dogs.
Specifically a dog photographer.
Okay, well then send them my way, and we'll do something different.
All my dogs are happy. They don't photograph sad dogs.
Oh, well then that's not going to be any good. We don't want any happy dogs. We want sad dogs. Make people feel sorry for us.
Can we have a happy dog for when we do have new patrons?
Oh yeah, we could do that. Good idea.
I'll find a happy dog picture.
Yay, happy dog. Okay, that's out of the way. Let's talk about some feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Of course, we always ask. I think, Nick, you've probably already taken a break. Nick A?
Oh, I might need one in a little while. I'll just disappear.
All right. It's getting awfully late for you too.
No, I'm okay.
Let's see. We have a lot of feedback, and we're not going to be able to get to all of it on today's show. We only have 40-something minutes left, Liz, something like that. Okay. So let's just quickly talk about this feedback that we received from Vernon. He said, "Greetings, Captain Jeff and crew. Just heard on APG 552 that I must have failed to include in my previous email the FlightAware screenshots of our after Christmas arrival and subsequent go-around in a Denver blizzard. See attached. I hope they arrived this time." Well, Vernon, we did actually have...
They left that go-around a bit late, didn't they? They nearly hit the ground.
Yeah, he's talking about the screenshots of FlightAware.
Okay.
So we did get those, Vernon. What we didn't get were the two pictures that you have of the out the window where you were seated, of the how foggy and snowy and nasty it was at the airport. So I guess we're showing that right now. Yeah. And that's not, those are two separate from the same windows, not the same airplane, with one looking at the jetway and one looking at the taxiway. Those are two separate shots I combined. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Vernon, for sending that in. And now we have a complete picture. But we did talk about the entire pathway and the go around and all that kind of stuff on 552 or whatever it was.
Looking at those pictures just makes me so incredibly glad that I don't live someplace anymore where it snows regularly like that, because that looks, I don't know, cold.
Oh, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, Steph. I mean, we've just had a week of pretty nasty fog. A lot of freezing fog in the UK, and I was going, oh, thank the Lord I'm not going to work.
So we actually get a lot of fog here. Charlotte, I don't know, it just seems to be very foggy all the time, especially early mornings through mid-morning.
Do you have a foggy bottom?
I'd rather not talk about it if we can.
Oh, okay. It's just I went to one in Washington, and I always wondered perhaps if there was another foggy bottom somewhere.
To my knowledge, we do not have a foggy bottom.
Paw Patrol. Paw Patrol has a foggy bottom. If you're wondering.
Fair enough. I Yes. But thankfully it's usually fairly warm and not freezing and not, that precipitation
Hot and
that's
sticky.
white.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
This is the bun/bottom show, I think.
Buns and bottoms.
Kind of a theme.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let's move on to the next feedback from Robert Tucker. No, Robert in Tucker. He says, please check out the video/audio feedback from his Facebook page. And so if you'll do that, please. Thank you.
Hello, crew, and Happy New Year. So Robert and Tucker. And wanted to share a pretty cool story. It was a relocation of a foster corgi. He was located over in Jacksonville, North Carolina, KOAJ, and had a pilot through the Pilots and Paws program. It's a great nonprofit that helps relocate some of these dogs. So yesterday we picked him up in Winder, Georgia. About a 2-hour flight, but would have been about 15 hours in the car round trip. So it was really great. We connected with Captain Tom. He and his wife flew the pup in his Cirrus CR22 over to Winder yesterday. And it was a great day to fly, and it was a really good way to relocate the dog. So we'll be in Tucker for the time being. Hopefully he'll fit in here and like it. And just want to again share that story. I think I had shared it with the crew sometime back because they do release a yearly calendar for a fundraiser. But you can check them out, the link here. And thanks for covering all my feedback. And catch up with you soon. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Very good. And
that was great pictures.
He was referring to the Southeast Corgi Rescue, which we'll have a link to in our show notes.
And perhaps Pilots and Paws, too. I know we've got community members who are actively involved with that organization and do some of the flying as well.
We do indeed.
Yeah,
in fact, the guy the guy that hangs out in the
guy that's in your
bathroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Pets, Paws and Pets. What's it called?
Pilots and Paws.
Pilots and Paws.
Kermit's in there with him now?
I can't do a good impression.
Very good.
I need to get him to record something like, yeah, that's it, Jeff. Anyway,
that
thank
has
you,
so
Rob.
much potential for abuse. I don't even know if you should do that.
I know. Which is why we're going to definitely have him do that.
Do it. Definitely do it.
Okay. Anyway, all the links will be in the show notes. Okay. Which one, Liz, you said I should jump to? Okay. Els Pilato.
Yes, I want to do this one. This is great.
Hi, Jeff and crew. Listening in on APG 552, you guys talked about the Wells Fargo executive who, while drunk, peed on another passenger. This is a subject close to my heart. Well, not the peeing on people's stuff.
You should have just left that out.
I was going to say,
right. It is in brackets. You could legitimately have ignored it.
Yeah, you're right. I should have. Boy, should I do a new take? Anyway, I spent a good number of years ferrying British and Irish holidaymakers to and from the sandy beaches of southern Europe. Crew generally referred to these folks as the Bucket and Spade Brigade. In all my time hauling self-loading freight, these were either the most delightful of my passengers or the worst. As an first officer, I frequently observed cabin crew coming to the cockpit while boarding to report a drunk passenger on the flight. The vast majority of captains then asked the cabin crew member whether they thought the person should travel. The reply was always, the passenger seems nice enough. And the captain would tell the cabin crew to inform the passenger that they would not be allowed alcohol on the flight. Of course, the hammered passenger always agreed, as even though their alcohol-induced haze, or even through their alcohol-induced haze, they understood the other option was getting turfed. Slam the door shut, climb the cigar tube 35,000 feet up into the rarefied air where it's not so easy to carry out said turfing. And of course, the supposedly placid, lashed passenger gets angry when being denied alcohol. Then come the reports of verbal abuse, shouting, drinking of their own duty-free, or one time stealing someone else's duty-free to drink, and the occasional spitting. To top it off, a purser getting a bloody nose for intervening. Off the back of these experiences, I now go myself before pushback to shine the bars at any supposedly pickled passengers who have been reported to me. Why? As I believe most cabin crew don't want to be responsible for deciding, and it is not fair to expect them to, if a passenger should be offloaded. Additionally, these types of passengers sadly just don't respect cabin crew. So let the mind games, well, basic, actually very basic, no, more like kindergarten level, at best, mind games begin. Initially, I don't talk to the passenger in question. I let them see me first talking with the crew, demonstrating that I value the crew's opinion, and I believe this gives power back to the cabin crew in the eyes of the trolleyed passenger. If the drunk is clearly spanned, I call to have the police on standby for the offloading, and off they go. For those who aren't tacking a full 3 sheets to the wind, I approach and make it clear that I am aware of their tipsy state and that I will not allow them to consume alcohol on the flight. No two ways about it. If the captain told you to your face, it's clear you ain't getting a drink. I've yet to have an alcohol-related incident on board as a captain. Good thing I don't do the Ibiza run anymore. We'd be leaving half the bloody passengers behind. Party town, I guess. Huh?
Turning back is famous for it. Yep.
Yeah. Turning back to the news story that spurred yet another rambling on my part, I think that the crew failed to manage the situation and cut off the Muppet or at least delay his drinks, thus avoiding him getting so pissed that he actually pisses on someone else. I certainly bloody hope they didn't let him on the plane in such a state. Once again, this concludes my ramblings for another show. Many thanks for reading them out, as I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact I am in the executive producer tier, as you were. Well, you know what? It doesn't, El Piloto or Pilato. But we do appreciate the fact that you are in the executive producer tier. That is
very generous. Quite right.
Yes, very generous. Blue side up and all that. Best regards, El Piloto. P.S. Not written while drunk. Mostly, sort of.
You know what, though? I actually really like this feedback because it gives some actionable things to people who are wondering what they would do in these situations, because I would say in some parts of the world, it's certainly not as common to encounter this sort of behavior, especially, and Captain Nick, correct me if I'm wrong here, but especially in the UK and Ireland, I see this earlier in the day than I would expect generally for most flights here in the States, due to the nature of a lot of these, trips going to holiday destinations and being stag parties and whatnot. A lot of the times, the festivities begin early. Let's just say that. So, but I like how he empowers the crew. I like how, he takes responsibility for having the final say and authority on this. And I think it's a good way to handle these types of situations. So thank you for your feedback on that.
Yeah. I have to agree 100%.
Had a wonderful little one-on-one video conversation with the real person behind this name, and he's a wonderful person. So cool. Really enjoyed that. All right. Let's continue with the next item from Tim Van Ram. Oh, he's in the chat. The chat? Chat. There we go. Hello, APG community. I thought this news item might be worthy of mention on the wonderful Airline Pilot Guy show. As a classic car enthusiast, I love to watch, is it Mecum car auctions on the television? I think they were actually in...
Isn't it spelled differently?
What were we? Oh, Chattanooga, a couple months back. They had a whole bunch of old cars and stuff there. Anyway, so many fabulous cars in tip-top shape to see. Well, this one auction item caught my eye, as it wasn't a classic car at all, but rather Elvis Presley's 1962 Lockheed 1329 Jetstar. I was and am still a huge Elvis fan. And then he attached the link to the Rob Report article about the Elvis Presley's dilapidated private jet selling for $260,000 at auction. Noting her husband's love of winged transport, Priscilla Presley spoke about the King's aircraft collection at the auction. And there's a picture of Priscilla Presley. And going once, going twice, sold for 260 grand. The 1962 Jetstar crossed the block at the Mecum Kissimmee Collector Car Auction in Florida the other day on what would have been the King's 88th birthday. On hand for the high-profile sale was Elvis's former wife, Priscilla Presley, who stood alongside the auctioneers during what turned out to be a decidedly lackluster bidding. We're showing some photos of the interior of the jet. Bidding started at $100,000, jumped to $150,000, but settled at $200,000. Only with plenty of coaxing did it get up to $240,000, where it stayed for a number of minutes. Finally, $260,000 came from a telephone bidder. The reserve came off, and the hammer fell. It didn't help that the 61-year-old jet wasn't on hand at Kissimmee for viewing. It's currently parked in the desert, gathering dust at the Roswell International Air Center in Roswell, New Mexico, where it has sat outside for close to 40 years. Anyway, the guy that bought it, businessman Jim Gagliardi of Madeira, California, he's 82 years old, bought the jet at a 2017 auction for $430,000. Huh?
That was the seller.
Oh no, that was a seller. Okay.
Yeah, he's the seller.
Oh, that kind of lost a little value then, from 430 to 200.
I'm wondering if when he bought it, if it had engines on it at the time. Though.
Yeah, I was going to say it needs a little work.
It's missing some things that have value. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that all it needs is really a good wash and wax and 4 engines.
Yeah,
2 on each side of the tail there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That crushed red velvet on the inside surely is worth something, though. I don't know.
You would think.
The interior.
Yeah, gold-plated ashtrays.
Ashtrays.
Yeah. Anyway.
Is Elvis, as you know, receive as much attention as he used to, in history?
I mean, maybe in certain circles, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much as it used to be.
Because I realize these things reach a peak, and then as the time goes on, interest will eventually die away.
There's a local runner in the community here in Charlotte who is also a Elvis impersonator and quite good, I might add. And I've yet to make it to a live event, but I've seen some of the stuff that he kind of streamed during the pandemic and whatnot, and it was entertaining. So there's still some of that going on, and certainly Vegas, I think you can find good impersonators still. But I mean, in the general, population, probably not much excitement over Elvis memorabilia.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could do that. Okay, let's do that. Which one is that? Number 9. This is some audio feedback from Stefan.
Guten Abend, APG team. This is Stefan from Germany calling. I like to give you a small feedback to your episode 552. Well, actually, it's not a feedback. I have a question. It's about the Jetstar flight, which made an emergency landing and passenger evacuation a week ago on a Saturday over a bomb threat in Japan. And you were talking quite intensely about why they performed a full evacuation of this flight. Well, of course, I agree with you that if a flight gets diverted due to a bomb threat, they usually put them in a very, very far corner of the airport, and then it takes quite a bit of time till they find some bloke who's able to drive some staircase to them, because I mean it's still an airplane with a possible bomb on board. So that you try to get out your passengers as quick as possible is kind of a natural instinct to do that from the crew side, or from the crew point's view. So that's why my company has a certain procedure for that. It's called controlled exiting. It's where you exit the aircraft via slide, but not in a hurry. You tell every passengers to sit down and slide down the slate in a controlled, orderly manner. So it's a procedure to get the passengers out rather quick, but very controlled and with much less risk for any injuries. So actually, it's not a feedback, more a question. If you have heard about that, some other airline is doing that, or whatever, or do you have any similar procedure handling a situation like this? So that's all. Thanks for your great podcast again, and well, carry on. Thank you. Bye bye.
Well, thank you, Stefan. And it is feedback and a question. It's 2 in 1. Perfect. So we don't have anything like that in our country, but that might explain why, when we saw that photo of the people going down the slides, that nobody had their luggage with them. So it wasn't like a mad dash to the doors and grab your stuff and go. It was probably a very organized, kind of more laid back or orderly kind of a thing. Nick, do you recall ever having that kind of
No. Stefan's feedback I thought was great, and lovely to hear your voice again, Stefan. And it was a procedure I was completely unfamiliar with. So,
yeah.
Excuse me.
Interesting.
If we had stairs around the aircraft, I mean, one of the bomb threats I had, we were on a remote stand, but that was just because that's where we were departing from, and there were a bunch of stairs around. So whilst it was going on, I quietly got the engineer on the headset and got him to push up a bunch of stairs onto the aircraft in case we had to evacuate. In fact, we didn't. It was declared not a threat. So we pulled them off and departed. But I can see sitting down is a much safer way to go down the slides than the normal method, which is kind of exit the door at a trot and leap straight into the slide. And you build up a lot of energy doing that. And of course, you tend to collide with people in front and behind because it's, you just got to get off the airplane as quickly as possible. So I can see it being an advantage. The only thing we had was a controlled evacuation when we were on stand, which was slightly different. But again, another procedure. But no, we didn't. I like that, though. I think Lufthansa have, come up with something that should be examined by other airlines.
It may very well be exactly what Jetstar, the same kind of a procedure that they employed there. So that makes a lot of sense now.
Listening to all that, though, gives me a deeper appreciation for how people usually leave my aircraft.
Well, yeah, they don't leave the normal way.
It's orderly.
Yeah. But I think that a lot of airlines would go out of business if they played it that way. So.
Probably so.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Stefan, for sending that in. I appreciate that. And finally, our last little piece of feedback, number 17. This was sent in from the geezer, Larry Gregory in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He said, some nutty humor for Captain Jiff. We were talking about the Jiff peanut butter thing and having some fun with that. He sent us 3 cartoons. The first, it's the Mr. Peanut with his top hat and his cane walking out the front door. And it says, famous last words. And he's saying to his wife, "Bye, hun. I'll be back in a jiff."
Oh, boy.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
That's not good.
It's
and then,
for
of course,
people who may not know around the world, that's a brand of peanut butter.
Yes, Jiff peanut butter. We talked about that. The guy hiding his pistol and ammunition in a Jiff peanut butter jar. And then the middle one here he's sitting on a couch or a sofa, if you prefer, or a love seat, maybe even more appropriately, with a young lady peanut wearing a flight attendant uniform. And he goes, "Arg, I can never get these darn airline peanuts open."
Very PC.
Yeah, a little racy.
Yeah, a little racy.
But But like those peanuts they give you on the like, oh, I can't seem to get.
Oh, they're never like perforated correctly, so you have to like get your teeth.
Use your teeth. Like hope nobody's watching.
Yeah. And then when you do, like finally, it explodes everywhere. Jeff and I have never had this problem before. It's fine.
Oh no. The last one, of course, is kind of age discrimination, if you ask me. On the left side, it looks like this is a hospital, and it's the nursery in a hospital, and a bunch of little baby peanuts in there, and it says "fresh peanuts." The sign says, and then right next to it, some very very elderly peanuts, senior peanuts, yes, and the sign says "peanut brittle."
Oh, very good.
That's not fun.
I've met that gentleman in person.
Mr. Peanut?
Mr. Peanut?
Yeah, I was at a Thanksgiving Day parade in New York, and he was floating down the street.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Mm-hmm. Wow.
As Tim Van Ram says, he's the kind of the mascot for Planters Peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
Peanut company.
Fair enough.
Wears a top hat, a monocle. Very distinguished looking peanut.
Does look a bit
very sophisticated peanut, if you ask me. Yeah.
And I'm choking on a Brazil nut, so...
Well, those
Does anyone
Brazilians
there know
watch
the
out.
Heimlich? Yeah. Do you have a corner of your desk
you got
that
to watch
you can...
out if you're getting a Brazil, that's for sure.
They're supposed to be very good for your health, though, yeah? Brazil nuts.
Those are like
they
my
can
least
be
favorite
painful, I gather.
I like Brazil nuts.
Do you like Brazil nuts? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on and wrap this thing up. What do you say?
Hey, Jeff, can I add one thing to the Bonanza news article we did?
Yeah.
So I've been poking around, and I finally found in all of my stuff here. There's a guy that so the American Bonanza Society is the type club for bonanzas, and it's based here in Wichita. And the guy who teaches, they're kind of I don't know, what is he? Their head guy, Tom Turner, is a guy who specializes in bonanza training, and he's actually who gave me my transition training. But anyway, I found a thing from him that says in a typical A36 at glide speed and with the propeller in normal RPM, the rate of descent is 15 to 1700 feet per minute. And after pulling the prop back, that rate reduces to 800 to 900 feet per minute.
Wow.
So
that's a considerable difference.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I was thinking 600 to 800 is I think what I said, but yeah, pretty significant difference there.
That is. All right. Well, thank you for adding that. And we're now going to point everybody over to our website, airlinepilotguide.com. Lots of stuff there. The routine, information about the crew and the community and community calendar, the APG library, more information about the plane tails and merchandise, or merch we like to call it, in the, because the cool kids, that's what they call it. And other stuff there too. And yeah, we are, Liz. We're cool.
Head over to our merch tent and pick yourself up some.
Anyway,
some swag,
just check it out. Yeah, some swag, some merch, whatever, We're also on social media.
But that's not what the cool kids call it.
No, the cool kids call it Sochmeds. No, only old fogies like me call it Sochmeds.
I have no idea what we call it anymore. But if you're on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. That's one place to find us. Another would be Twitter. We are at APG Crew on Twitter. And I guess Nick Anderson is still updating the Instagram page with some of the artwork. We are also
as we speak.
Hopefully, because I haven't done it. We're also APG Crew on Instagram. So head over to your favorite social media platform and find us there. And
yes,
that guy that we mentioned earlier, Pilots and Paws and bathroom aficionado, he's back in Jeff's bathroom, and I don't know
once
why.
Again. Hello, Slack.
Okay, but I'm dripping wet.
That's okay. We're used to it. Yeah, every time he is. You'd think he'd grab a towel and dry himself off before he came over here in front of them. Well, sometimes.
You just get one like monogrammed with his like
I should.
initials on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I mean, we're going to show a photo right now of this young man in his bathroom showering getup while we hear him talk about Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share news and ideas, we suggest episode and plain tales topics, we plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
You know, Elvis may have had gold-plated ashtrays in his jet, but Hillel in this picture here has gold-plated shower
doors
frames and
a
shower
mirror.
doors. Yeah, isn't that nice?
And really, it's the epaulets on
Epaulets
the
on a robe.
Yeah, well,
bathrobe, and I still would like my own loofahito.
Loofahritos are definitely something we need to
We
pursue.
need to add those to the
Yeah,
store.
to the merch.
To the merch.
Okay,
I'm
well,
just
thanks.
really unsure.
Hello.
Burrito.
I got shampoo in my eyes.
Yeah, there you go. See, I thought we had towels in there, but apparently not. Okay, and we'd also like to thank our producer, Liz. Come on in, Liz. There she is, at her control room position in
I am
Toronto,
in control.
Ontario.
Not.
Yeah.
It's a
anyway.
loose
Thanks.
form of control.
Yeah. very
Yeah,
good.
well, as much as you can control, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Liz. You're always, the person I really lean on to do so much of the work here
My pleasure.
behind the scenes. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and say thank you for watching / listening, and tell your friends. And we hope to see you again next week on the Airline Pilot Guy Show. Wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I don't know why I was waiting for talons, Douglas.
Because I've done that like this
I know.
last several times,
And it,
I
like,
wasn't
threw
sure
me
I was
off.
going to do it or not, and then I went, oh, I was back to the original one.
Recorder's
Anyway.
off.
I didn't start mine.
recorder's off.
Oh, well done. Yes.
Where is it?
Thanks, everybody in the chat room.
You guys are great.
So, Nick, are you
Yep.
okay with that one title suggestion?
I can do something with that, yes.
Okay.
It may not be
PC.
children friendly, but I'll do my best.
Can't wait.
Well, you
Can't-
don't have to do that. You can do something else. Why is I can't turn my recorder off?
You'll have to come up with a better idea than Thumb in Bum Minded Neutral.
What is the show title? I can't even understand it.
Thumb
Thumb
and
and
bum.
bum. Mind and
Mind
Thumb
neutral.
and-
and bum minded neutral. Thumb
Yeah,
and
we're-
bum minded neutral.
Apparently,
We're
that's a
talking-
British saying for someone who's not paying attention.
I mean, as opposed to just your head up your arse.
So that was the.
If we were talking
yeah,
about the American Airlines thing at JFK, and everybody was asking what was
We
the
were
third-
wondering.
what was the
Yeah,
third
what was that
pilot
third pilot
thing?
doing?
Thumb
Nick
and bum.
said he had his thumb and bum and mind
Mind and
So we're going
neutral.
to see a pilot on a jump seat with his thumb up his bum.
You might, or something vaguely.
Yes, loosely
I
interpreted.
feel like Nick's got a
Since
plan. Just
I
let him
don't
go with
think the
it. It's all
internet-
good. It's all
I don't
good.
think the internet's going to help me with that particular image.
I wouldn't.
Well,
I wouldn't Google search it. That's all I'm
There
gonna
will be a
say.
lot of information out there on that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You might get more than you really want.
So,
Or you-
well,
Unless
Yes.
one of you are willing to dress up and pose for me.
Not.
Oh, no.
Or perhaps undress and pose for me.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
When you put it that way, it's an absolute yes from me.
Well, you'll get what you get then.
Okay.
Unless the chat room has any better ideas.
No one has said anything.
No,
Kind of
they
we're paying
haven't, have they?
attention because we thought you had one there, so I wasn't.
Oh, it's fine. I can work with
Okay,
that.
I can't wait. Okay, everybody, thanks for being with us.
Yes, thank you very
Ta-ta.
much. We couldn't do this thing without you guys. and gals.
We could actually. It'd be a lot more.
Well, we
fun.
could, but we're just saying
It'd be
that,
a lot more fun.
Nick, because
We haven't
they're
ended
nice
the broadcast
people.
yet, Nick.
We need them to come back.